Oh, good. Everything's.
One of Men's Workers used to do that. He's like, ho, 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 ho. I think he saw one of these kung fu films.
Not beating
And
those French Canadian allegations, I see.
oh, this one guy that works for us, Byron, he's pure Newfoundlander. Like, it's insane. These guys, like, they have no off switch. It's incredible. When they work, you get a Newfie and they work, it's incredible. They don't think very much, but no, anyways, you were just consuming a muffin.
I was. I haven't really eaten anything today. So the muffin, I bought this
Oh
at
man.
coffee hour this morning with some guys, and then I haven't had
Real
any.
secret coffee hours?
No.
Oh, okay,
On
okay.
Tuesdays, my church has a men's coffee thing in the morning, so I get
Oh,
up
I know I
even.
was making a joke.
I get up extra early to go have coffee, and then I go to work like a wagey that I am, and then I come here and I sit in front of another computer screen for like 3 hours on end. So I get off the bad internet, which is my work, to get on the good internet,
There
which
you
is
go.
my Twitter / YouTube account livelihood that I do on the side. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been
Well,
good.
if it makes you feel better, I've been drawing very abstract, um, very offensive drawings for a schizophrenic Egyptian man in his book. So that makes you feel
I hope
better.
they pay you.
I hope Sunwin pays
I
me too,
hope you
because
get
they're good
paid.
drawings. They're good. I like it.
They're offensive.
Well, okay, so he's writing. I can't show them until the book's actually published if this all
Yeah.
goes through. But he's writing a book of 10 horror short stories, and one of them is about a guy lost at sea that resorts to cannibalism. Another one's about a guy that redacts his whole family and sees. Anyways, don't worry about it. It'll be good. He's like, he's like, chill. You have to make it like Francis Bacon, but Francis Bacon meets like, Kiki Smith, and I go, yes, I can do that. I can do that. Okay.
What
I
a
love
what a
I
what a
love Kuar.
crossover.
Yeah, I love Kuar. Like, I love Sunwin, man. He's like truly a genius of posting, and his short films are great as well. So I'm very glad that I get the opportunity to work with him. And I always wanted to interview him. I probably will. I remember before Vile Pill left, or well, he always leaves and comes back. I think he was the only guy to like really interview Sunwin, but hopefully in the future, I can let that happen. But he had this great space recently about. I think I said this on the show when it happened. He had this great space on the works of Laszlo Krasnogorai, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature. He wrote Satan Tango and The Turning Horse. I think he like worked very closely with Bellatar. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, you were saying, Prude,
I was just thinking
Denisha?
about Bellatar the other day. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
why. I we were having a conversation. I don't remember with who or where, but it was a conversation about film, and it was for some reason I thought, yeah, like I've seen X, Y, and Z, and then I had mentioned I had seen Satan Tango, and they're like, you know who Bellatar is? And I'm like, I guess I'm that pretentious or something. I was like, I feel like a lot of people on this side of the internet kind of know about Bellatar, and I don't even think Satan Tango is the most offensive or
Oh no,
transgressive work that he's done in the slightest.
no, it's not. But like at the same time, um, I think like we said this at the time, the problem is that a lot of these Eastern European writers and film producers, like filmmakers like Laszlo and like Bellatar, their politics on the surface are like libtarded, and they have like Laszlo Krasnogorai's statements is like, his picture of heaven and earth is like Obama 2009 forever. But
Yeah.
um but like a lot of them do have this, same in the contemporary art world. A lot of them do have like this weird communist romanticism, which I think like as time goes on is, I understand that impulse and it's somewhat warranted, especially if you're a creative type and, the communist government was giving you a stipend, but also in terms of your way of life and the way that the global, not the Far East, well, I mean, with China, but like the way that like the global East in general and in communism presented like a very unique bifurcation of the world. that was sort of lost. But it doesn't really make sense unless you are like someone who was a communist romantic, but then you became like, I mean, I'm not trying to rush a shill or anything. I'm not trying to do this, but guys like Zaranovsky, where they were communists, but they're like incredibly like socially conservative, and you would even say on the right. It's like I think that makes a bit more sense than if you're like, I'm a communist romantic, but I love like the EU, I love the global liberal order, I loved Obama. It's like you're just loving something that crushed the
The
romantic
Russians
element.
have a phrase for that I find incredibly interesting. And it's not one that I as a Westerner, I'm not going to really be able to fully comprehend. I mean, I've had it explained to me by Russians before, but like the phrase "demschizia," like democratic schizophrenia, I think is a very fascinating complex. And I'm sure there's an analog in the United States for it, but it's a particularly interesting one about like, things have changed. And so we're kind of like looking for this like sort of liberal idealism that's almost messianic. But speaking of things from like Central and Eastern Europe that I would love to maybe do an episode on in the future is like the Decalogue from Krzysztof Kieslowski. Like
I've always wanted to watch it.
I've only seen the first one and I really enjoyed it. So I'm inclined to go watch the rest of them, but we have some stuff to finish off. I'm hoping to do one of the Steins Gate episodes that we were paid to do before the end of the for the end of the year.
You can do it next week. I'm on episode 3. So
well then perfect. Yeah, we can do it next week. That works for me. Cool. Because he DM'd me on Substack and he's like, "Is it going to take a while?" And I said, "No." I had politely explained to him. I said, like if it's not on Tubi, it doesn't exist. And he was just like, "Gio is Tubi's strongest soldier," and I said that's very true.
We would do a Tubi exclusive deal. I swear to God. And I would wear the hat. I would wear the shirt.
I would, if anyone knows or works for Tubi, we are open to putting DA on Tubi exclusively for free. If you're willing, we'll review Tubi originals. We'll do it
right next to the lesbian homie, and some of those Tubi originals are great. You know that one? It's called Cora.
Yeah,
that's a great post-apocalyptic film with a female lead. I know some of you guys in the chat are going to be scared when I say female lead, but it's a great film. But trust me on this. And Sean Weiland, Decalogue, but he didn't put the K. Sean, it's spelled with the K. That's how pretentious I am. But no, I'm kidding, Sean. I love you, Sean. If you could send me the Decalogue films, that would be great.
I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, I did.
How was your Thanksgiving? Because you had an American Thanksgiving this year.
This is my second American Thanksgiving.
How was it?
It was pretty good. We just went to a friend's house, and I had turkey, and it was pretty good.
Do you eat turkey often?
No, not really. Like in terms of like a sandwich, like a deli meat, yes, but I was never a really big fan of turkey because I remember my aunt would always cook this huge turkey, and it was dry. And not knocking my aunt's cooking, but like, well, I guess I am. But then my girlfriend's friend, they had this one you could buy where it was like a half turkey, but they brine it for you and you cook it in the spices. It was great. Like I never used to like turkey until I got a bit older. I know I like turkey. Do you like turkey, Prude? Do you have it all the time?
I'm more of a ham guy. Although
me too.
I love a good honey baked ham, and it is something that I take great pleasure every year in making. No, I recently, so last Christmas, so a year ago now, I have been sold on goose as sort of like the Christmas or Thanksgiving meal. I mean, I'll eat turkey when it's there, but I always find turkey, even like stuff from like Thanksgiving, I think it always is good as a sandwich. I don't like the bird itself so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a bird that a lot of people don't know how to cook because it always comes out way too dry by a lot of people.
You have to cook it like steak, a lot of these birds.
You really do. So when a turkey's like got some like juice to it, then I'm a big fan, but I'm more of a ham person. I went through a good chunk of ham for Thanksgiving. It was great. But I had 3 Thanksgivings. So
did you go to your parents?
Yeah, so we had my parents Wednesday night because my dad always on Thanksgiving, that sort of like 4-day work break. He goes on a hunting trip with his battle buddies he served with in Afghanistan, and then So we had extended family over Wednesday night. I hosted a church Thanksgiving at my parish. I do this every year to, make sure that people have some. If you don't have anywhere to go, then you have somewhere to go for Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
then my fiance and I had a Thanksgiving dinner. So it was just like 3 very long Thanksgivings. Although the time off of work was much needed. Thank God. I needed a.
Did they watch the football? Like what?
My parents are Green Bay Packers fans, so I think they both watched the game because they played Thanksgiving
Cowboys
Day.
versus the Packers. What's the tradition?
No, it was Detroit versus Green Bay, and Green Bay won. I think the Cowboys played recently. I don't pay attention to NFL all that much, but I think they played the Kansas City Chiefs and beat them. So good for Dallas, I guess, But every time the Dallas wins a game, you just know that there's like an army of Mexicans somewhere in a bar that says that this is their year.
It's like there's
like I just imagine being a
year.
Mexican Cowboys fan where like this is your year and they're going to the Super Bowl and like Dak Prescott is about to win MVP of the year and then you get deported. Like it's over for you. Maybe Patriots really are in control if that were to happen. Like,
yeah,
like wow, here at the Arlington Stadium, it sure is empty on Super Bowl Sunday. A man can dream. A man can dream.
There's a lot of Indian Toronto Maple Leafs fans. But no, I mean that's kind of like the Maple Leafs. Every year is the year, except now we're like really. Well, I mean, they play Florida tonight, so we'll see what happens.
Well, they're playing Florida tonight, chat. You know what that means. There's going to be like every 20 minutes or so, there's going to be a 5-second interval where Gio is not paying attention because he's too busy looking at the other screen for the score.
I'm not. This year, they're not doing too well.
They're not doing too well.
No, but what's traditionally the Thanksgiving football thing? Is it the Patriots versus the Cowboys, or is it the Cowboys?
I mean, it depends. I think every year they alternate, but it's usually, I mean, they're usually conference titles or something like that.
Yeah.
Or division matches, things like that.
I don't. The Macy's Day Parade?
Yes, they do. I've never been a fan of it. And by that, I don't mean I dislike it. I've never understood the tradition because I never watched it and I never lived in New York, so I don't get the big deal behind it, And also I think like the Macy's Day Parade is kind of this weird reflection of stuck culture where like we're all gonna have these displays of things that have not really been
Norman Rockwell.
Don't get me wrong, I love the Peanuts and my Christmas tradition is the Peanuts Christmas special, but like here comes Snoopy and Woodstock and it's just like, man, like Charles Schultz has been dead for decades. Like the last, Peanuts related media, I think was done on Apple TV, which wasn't half bad. But at the same time, that is speaking of Peanuts. It's always funny when you find like a random channel poll and you have no idea about someone's content. And so there's this guy, their YouTube channel called Big Beak Entertainment. I mean, like he's done video game reviews, but he's done like a tier list of every Peanuts TV and movie special and theatrical release ever made, and my white ass sat down and listened to this guy review every single Peanuts special and movie and TV thing ever produced, and I did not know that there were this many Peanut specials ever made.
Oh my god. How long was it? Like 7 hours?
No, it was like I think he condensed it down to like an hour 20 to go over. I think it was like 27 like films or short films that were produced. And I was like, damn, I didn't know that there were that many. And I didn't know that there was like a animated / live action one about Snoopy's brother who lives in New Mexico. And Spike is his name, but it stars Charles Schultz's daughter. And it's like the girl with the red truck. And it's like, what is this nightmare? We will review Peanut specials for our usual fee. I would be down to do that. But we have
Charlie Brown Ramadan special.
Thankfully no foreign holiday like that exists for them. They do have one for Arbor Day in which none of the kids understand what the fuck Arbor Day is about, which is thoroughly entertaining. They do have one about childhood leukemia, which like thankfully doesn't end on a bad note. I don't think they've ever had one. Although the one where they go to fucking Normandy is wild because basically like the old like French grandpa or whatever is like, I hate these kids. Like, we're the burns the fucking house down. And like, you know, it's just like 5 minutes of Charlie Brown running around fucking France yelling fire and for help. And it's like, no one understands you, buddy. It's over.
Oh my God.
And then you find out that like Charlie Brown's old like grandpa or whatever probably cucked this French guy and probably like was slept with his wife or whatever back in the war.
There
it's
was
like,
a lot of
that
that
explains
happened
a
in
lot.
the war in Italy and France and in Germany. That's people don't talk about like even, you know,
Well, because Schultz
American and
served in
British.
the war, and
Yeah.
and it definitely affected him. Like every June 6th, the local paper I have that still does like the big in color Sunday funny papers always replays throughout all. I think he does like 15 or 16 days of Snoopy's adventures in D-Day, and they
Yeah.
play them all out
Oh my God.
on the Sunday pages, which I appreciate. But it's also like, yeah, Charles Schultz probably saw some shit, and oddly enough, Charlie Brown has been like the way in which he's coped for out his lifetime. Like the very first comic strip of Charlie Brown of Peanuts is insane because it's like, there goes Charlie Brown, good old Charlie Brown. I hate that guy, and it's like it's the same shit for 50 years. It's like,
It's
perhaps
like that-
I'm
like that
sorry, Mr.
Robert
Schultz, I
Crumb.
didn't understand your game, and it's incredibly chud coded.
It's like that Crumb comic. I hate everybody. I hate that guy. And the
Yeah, look
guy's
at that
like-
asshole over there, and it's just like a totally normal person. Like,
No, that was like that one Japanese anime creator, that animator. What am I thinking of? He was a child in Hiroshima or Nagasaki. I forget which one.
you're thinking about Barefoot Jen.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the really really incredibly animated, incredible artwork, but incredibly dark as well. That he managed.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
the scene where the bomb drops is absolutely insane. It's funny because we were talking about that yesterday. Sandbatch and I. Well, Mr. D was there.
Oh
but-
yeah, you were on the you were doing the Twin Peaks.
Yeah, we've been doing the Twin Peaks return thing. We finally covered episode 8, which is, if you haven't seen anything of Twin Peaks, but like if you wanted to see like a really interesting short film, go watch episode 8 of The Return, because it kind of offers us a cosmology for how the Twin Peaks world is kind of formed. Like Mark Frost, the co-creator, basically says like this is the closest thing you get to an origin story. But I think it's this sort of beautiful cosmology that's sort of like neo-Gnostic in nature. And I don't mean that as a derogatory thing, but like, because mankind is now tempering with a new technology that can literally destroy the planet, we have tapped into something that has been so ancient and that unleashes evil into the world. It's really and it's all oriented around the Trinity test in Los Alamos, and you see this like really well done recreation of the bomb going off. And
that was like Carnival had that plot line about the Trinity test.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it was interesting because this of course comes out long before Oppenheimer did, but it has a much more interesting take on the bomb itself than say Oppenheimer does, because Oppenheimer is like this really strange film where it's just like, what if we had the ordeal of civility on top of the fact that everyone you knew that was involved in this project was a filthy fucking communist? And it's just like, what do you do with that? And it's just like, well, like, turns out, like, that's a legitimate question to interrogate. And the spirituality aspect isn't really there other than, I guess, for obligatory reference. But I mean, nevertheless, it's a really, but we were talking about it, and it's what inspired me to cover the essay we're going to cover later this evening in the show, because it's very strange, Gio, because like you and I are born after the Berlin Wall falls, and we're born after the Soviet Union dissolved.
Right after, yeah.
And so like our parents and our grandparents and even some of our older friends are within living memory of like the Cold War paranoia that at any point in time, like, Western Europe disappears in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And we have like maybe 30 minutes tops to kind of prepare for the end of the world. And that's a very strange thing to suddenly disappear from living memory. I mean, it's still around, but you and I culturally, that doesn't hang over our heads anymore. Like our disasters or our apocalypses are either biological in nature,
Yes.
You know, movies like Contagion and stuff like that, and of course COVID. But or it's all environmental, you know, like that
Yeah.
atrocious Day After Tomorrow film and things like that.
Yeah. We all watched An Inconvenient Truth in class. That would be like such a I was gonna make a joke about like if there would be like a BitChute version of like with that title, An Inconvenience. Like that's just like
An Inconvenient Truth.
An Inconvenient Truth. Yeah.
I don't know, like it is interesting though, right? Like, because we don't even the climate change stuff doesn't feel as, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it certainly feels
Nowadays
different.
it does.
Nowadays
Yeah.
it does, because now it's become so hyper politicized that like the legitimate concerns about ecology, they're all there. And to be perfectly honest, there's a lot of ecological issues that I think really should be transcending partisan politics.
Oh yeah.
Because as the famous Twitter saying goes, we are easily fucking things that we that cannot be unfucked.
Shout out to Trash World Citizen. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, so what do I do with that information, you know? And it's
really
like, well, I think it's when you first started doing stuff, I think we had mentioned Chad Haig and the
Yes.
the inch deep layer of plastic that will be found in our fossil record. And it's
Yes.
just like,
Yeah.
there's so much we don't consider, which is really tragic.
Well, when it came to the Cold War, it depends on what boomer you're talking about. Like, for example, well, your parents are Gen Xers, but like, my parents are the very end of the boomers.
Mhm.
They are like right on the brink of Gen X, or
Okay.
like older Gen Xers, right? Like my father was born in 62. Well, no, actually my mother is older. So my mother was born in 59, but my father was born in 62. He was like, he was essentially about 5 or 6 years away from the Gen X cutoff. And
Yeah.
so he remembers like a lot of his younger years were in the 70s. He has this nostalgia over the 70s. But like really when he was like when he was forming his sort of like view of the world and his taste of music and all that, a lot of that was from the 80s. So he said to me one time when we were watching Trauma Zone, this is when he had his like rheumatic condition and he was like laying up on the couch. So I'm like, hey, why don't you watch this documentary? It's all basically just images. It's not like a traditional Adam Curtis film. And so we were watching Trauma Zone. He was fascinated because he's like, wow, it's like, I remember like some of this footage, like the McDonald's in Moscow, but it's like half the stuff in this film I don't even remember seeing in Western media, right? But he said to me, he goes, it's funny because my aunts, like his older siblings, they remember, they were core boomers. So they remember like the drills of like going down, tuck and roll or going under your desk if you hear the siren. But my father's like, when I was growing up, by the time I was a teenager, and I think it was it Brezhnev? He goes, yeah, it's like we knew it was there. We knew there was a possibility, but it wasn't like as ever present as his older siblings in his life. Only like really until Ronald Reagan got there did like, it's sort of like how
Did the fear kind of return?
Yeah, it's like, how Obama brought racism back? It's like Ronald Reagan brought back the Cold War, like in a weird way. So it's like and my father remembers like he started off as like when he was a teenager, he was like pretty like pro Trudeau, but then like later on when he was like in his 20s, he's like, yeah, this is bullshit. But I think because at the time, like the Conservative Party was in dire straits, and it was up until the 1990s. Really, I mean, the Conservative Party in Canada was pretty weak up until Stephen Harper. Let's be real. I mean, there was a bit of a revival in the 90s with the Reform Party. But yeah, he's like, the Soviet Union thing, like we knew it was there, and we would hear reports on TV. We would like hear in history class, but it wasn't the same degree as his siblings, as his sisters, that were like actual core boomers. It was only until Reagan and the wall fell. And, my parents remember the wall fell. They were watching it on television. And this was a few years before I was born. And, but yeah, it's just, I think a lot of people in the West had the sense that the Soviet Union kind of was on the decline. Like my old man remembers when Chernobyl happened, and he saw the footage of the plane going down, right? And but I don't think that it was a very limited window when people genuinely, maybe because people didn't know. Like, for example, there was one guy in the Soviet Union that basically prevented a nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because he realized, he's like, if the Americans were sending nukes, they would send nukes everywhere. They weren't just going to send one. And, of course, like the Cuban Missile Crisis. So
well, I was about to say,
yeah,
I think that's the thing that really does shake the, maybe the Cold War generational differences, is just like, oh, well, the Cold War, had its phases of detente or escalation.
Yeah.
Like, of course, the Cuban Missile Crisis shapes it, but also, Reagan's remarks. A lot of people were really concerned, about the whole evil empire rhetoric, and then, what else is going to go on in the world with respects to, well, what are we going to do with this? Because I know that the English were, the UK government had more concerns than, say, the Americans did. It was very much like Thatcher had a bigger concern about it than most people realize.
Yeah. And I don't think, like, North American audiences, if you were Irish, I think it was different, but I think people knew about, for example, the Troubles. The Troubles really kind of were like the UK's Ireland. It was like the UK's Vietnam. But like, if you were Irish American, you were, of course, your ear to the ground. Your ear was more to the ground. But I guess it was different in Canada, because Canada had a sort of a different feeling to the Cold War than America and the UK. And so it sort of was like, it was there, but it was quite different. I'm sure, like, if people have American boomer parents, I'm sure it was the feeling probably was different for your parents.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, like, my parents.
What about your grandparents, Prude? Yeah. What about your grandparents? Are boomers, right?
Yeah. Well, no. My grandparents aren't boomers.
Okay.
My grandparents are Silent Gen.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Born in 39, so a bit of a different worldview than most. Like my grandparents' memories, I think, of that time are way different in the sense that, like, they grew up right after the war, and were young in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And so for them, like, yeah, like, the worry about the bomb was real, but at the same time, like, because my mother's side of the family is from the Deep South, like, a lot of their cultural memory is about not so much like the Cold War, but about the Civil Rights era, and what that entailed for day-to-day living in parts of the South, and then trying to escape some of that. And they would go to California for work, because there was still a booming sort of an industrial base in a lot of these places. So it was a different time. I mean, like, it's very interesting. Like, my grandmother doesn't so much talk about the Cold War as, like, she talks about how surprisingly pro-Vietnam people were. And I mean, like, that's something that we don't ever, like, I'm sure that there was a pro-Vietnam side to these things, and it doesn't really get discussed.
You mean pro the war or pro the Vietnam side?
Pro the war, pro American military presence in Vietnam. Which, like, it doesn't surprise me. It's just something we don't really see get discussed. It's like part of that conservative counterculture that doesn't get mentioned really ever or anywhere. And not that that's a problem, but I think it's something that's certainly under discussed. It was different, and also in part because we had a draft back then. But, like, for my dad's side of the family, like, it's never been anything too major, because everyone in my family, at least on my dad's side, who was a male, served. And so it was just like, this was just part of the job.
Yeah, you had relatives in Vietnam.
I've had relatives in every war since the beginning of the country. Like, it's a wild thing to think about. But yeah, it's very strange in the sense that
I have a Vietnam veteran that lives up the street.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, his name's Wolf. Like, he was in Khe Sanh, and I saw his tattoos and everything. Yeah. But I think he came to Canada after the war because he married a Canadian woman. And he wasn't like a draft dodger. He very much was in Vietnam. But he's a great guy, though. He's a great guy. But, like, you could tell, man, he's seen some stuff. Like, but you were saying, Prude?
Yeah. So I mean, like, but also, I guess like the American cultural zeitgeist really does shape things because, you know, just like we discussed the legendary, you know, post-war consensus, like there is so much about America that fundamentally is still focused on the Second World War. And I mean, because I grew up overseas and my dad was in the military, like I got to see all of the World War II and World War I stuff.
Yeah.
And I still recommend, like, if you're ever in France, like if you ever get the chance to go to like the Verdun War Museum, it's probably one of the most moving things of my life. And in the same way that like even the like Los Alamos Museum is, because one of the things that I guess like I said this yesterday, but like I almost turned into like a mini Nick Bostrom or some kind of like vulnerable world hypothesis type character, because if you go to Los Alamos, they have a little theater at the museum slash, you know, science or research center. I don't remember where specifically, but if you go there, they'll play a short film. I think it's like 38 or 40 minutes. It's not a long thing, but it just very clinically describes the history of nuclear weapons testing. And, you know, it's all archival footage. It all just describes what's been done, what's happened, and the destructive capabilities of these weapons. And like when you're like 13 years old, that is like you've now been
Yeah.
introduced to this like strange sort of mimetic agent where it's like, oh, at any point in time, if things were to get bad, the world functionally ends.
Yeah.
And there's no real, like back when I still did a lot of geopolitics stuff, you know, I talked about like the bargaining model of war and other versions of like rational choice theory in politics. And it's like, it's kind of funny that there's a lot of papers that are just basically saying like, well, a lot of this stuff really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the ultimate leverage of force multiplication exists and it's called nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And, but like when you're like a kid, that stuff like it's frighteningly terrifying because like you don't know about the world in any real capacity. And so you're kind of just like blown away by the fact that like, oh, like we have these like world ending devices that may or may not really function or exist, but we've been testing them for decades and have caused such irreparable damage to, you know, like carbon dating kind of gets fucked by it. We have to basically dig for old German and British naval vessels from the Battle of Jutland to get pre-irradiated like steel because it's buried in the bottom of the fucking ocean. Like it's just kind of crazy when you think about all of the implications of that.
It's like
and
when
so
you
like
watch The Day After, and
yeah, like the day I've seen it because it's on YouTube, and I was just curious. Like every now and then, I guess out of like childhood fascination, I go back in time and just start looking shit up. Like, well, what were these people thinking about? Like, I've seen The Day After. I think there's like a Canadian radio drama that you know plays all the hits and things like that. And it's like in the background, you hear these news reports about like shit getting really bad between like on the West German front, and then all of a sudden, like the radio cuts out and the world ends. And it's I don't know, every 8 months I go back to that stuff in morbid curiosity and fascination. I don't know.
I used to do that with Chernobyl before the miniseries. I would like go back and research it. There was like that.
I really is
Vietnam War.
Is revisionist like as the miniseries is. It is really good.
Yeah. Oh, Threads is also good. No, but the very end of The Day After, they said that this would only be about 20% of what would actually happen if a major American city were to get nuked. Like it's over. It's basically, even if one city in America, even like a lesser city were to get nuked, it would be over. Like
yeah, like a couple of years ago, Charlemagne and I and a couple of others, we were on this. We were watching this like CNN report put together. I think it was by like. It isn't the center. I think it's like the Center for like a New American Security or a New American Century. And this was a couple of years ago, and they were covering like what a hypothetical conflict would look like between the U.S. and China over Taiwan. And then all of a sudden, they're just like, oh yeah, and then like they drop a nuke and. It gets weird real quick because like now what do we do once the nuclear weapon's been used? And it's not like all the nukes. It's just like a tactical nuclear weapon, and it's just like, has that ever been gamed out? Like what are we doing here? You know, like it's interesting questions that don't really get interrogated in a way I think that they should.
But you know,
it's all in the past. Or I mean, it's all stuff that's hypothetical. I don't know if that would actually escalate, but it's like. obvious fear mongering or obvious, political, for the point of like, oh, we really need to be concerned about this.
Well, that's like what Trump saying, like he wants to go back to nuclear testing. I think that's kind of like insane. Like that's pretty. Where would you test it even? Underground?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
maybe.
That's the only place I can think of that you would be able to.
Maybe in space. Like they did that once.
But,
Remember the Van Allen belt? They threw a nuke in the Van Allen belt.
well, the Van Allen radiation belt is like what, outside the Earth's ionosphere. I don't know if we've ever deployed a nuke that far out. I mean, we've done high altitude, nuclear weapons testing.
Yeah.
Sure
There was this documentary with William Shatner where they talked about it. They actually threw a nuke in the Van Allen belt, if I recall.
I know that there was ionosphere testing, but like, I don't know.
Maybe I remember Alex Jones mentioning that, but no, it would violate. Yeah, it would basically Intel Treaty says no to space nukes. Well, yeah, I could see where something would go wrong there, but it's just I don't know. It seems like very insane. Like I don't know why Trump is doing this. It's like he's only saying this to appease people that hate him, more or less, which I think is a very common theme. Unfortunately, he says a lot of things when it comes to geopolitics to appease people that hate him. So it's just, yeah, I mean, but anyways, speaking of stupid nonsense, I guess did you see this Sabrina Carpenter thing?
Apparently, well, who used it? Was it Ice? DHS used one of her songs in an edit.
I think it was Ice. It was Ice.
Ice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Ice has done a little Dark Age edit, which. Happy New Year, 2017. I don't know what to say on that one. It's just kind of funny to me.
The only take I have is that this was like an entirely unforced error, and it's stupid. And like you knew it was gonna happen.
My question is, does anyone give a shit?
No, I mean,
like, I mean, I know that sounds so reductive, but it's just like, does anyone actually
cares?
Does anyone care? Like, if most Sabrina Carpenter fans aren't gonna be, I am Stephen Miller's like strongest like Gentile. Like, it's just not gonna be that guy.
No, it's not.
Most Sabrina Carpenter fans, I imagine, are
already against Trump.
Are Zoomer women and gays. Like, I can't imagine. Yeah. I could be wrong. But whereas, like, I mean, like, there's, I guess she's like the anti-Sydney Sweeney now, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not something that
I think like
it's stuck in my craw.
It's stupid. Like, I understand, like, as a shit post it does make sense, but like I don't think like an official government channel that is handling something incredibly vital to the mission of the Trump administration should be shit posting at that degree. I think that like they should. I've said this from day one. If you're going to do this, keep it silent. Actually learn from people in power throughout the ages going into the ancient world. And I think like it's obviously going to get taken down. It's obvious Sabrina Carpenter's legal team is on the lawsuit or whatever. It's just like, what, I don't know. It's
what did she file? Like a DMCA claim? Is that what it is?
Probably. That's probably what's going to happen.
I mean, okay, cool. The video gets taken down by the copyright holder. Yeah. Like, there'll be another dumb meme that offends people in 5 minutes. Like, to me, it's just it's not that big of a deal in my perspective. Like, instead, what's been the main area of focus, I think, that is more concerning is you had basically a bunch of either ex-military or ex-intelligence agency related Democrats tell the military, like, we know who obeys lawful orders and who doesn't.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the Secretary of War is a war criminal now, and it's just like
Homeland Security. Was it Homeland Security or the Department? What do they call it? The two agents that were shot.
Oh, the National Guardsmen.
And it was one woman and one man, I think.
Yeah, and I think that the woman has died. The man, I think, is still in critical condition. Yeah, I don't know.
So,
but like, and also like that just re-highlights the whole Afghan asylum seeker thing, because it's just like this was a 29-year-old, and also there was another, I think, Afghan national who tried to do a terrorist attack, or I mean, he got caught, but it was in Dallas. and they had arrested him. They had he had an IED or some other like explosive material in his car, and it's just like, what are we, doing here?
I forget who said it. It may have been John, or it may have been Niccolo Salo. I think it was John that tweeted, that's like the ultimate like Obama era liberal move of like just bombing a country for 15 to 20 years and then bringing them all into America afterwards, after just like destroying their whole way of life for 15 years. It's like, wow, that's nothing could possibly go wrong.
Nothing could possibly go wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, we did it with some aspects of Vietnam. We did it with Somalia.
Yeah.
We've done it with everything since World War II. We have bombed or fucked up some part of the world, and then all of a sudden
we're gonna bring them here.
we bring them here, and it's like, what are we doing?
No, it was Niccolo Salo that had the tweet. It may have been him, or it was someone else, a mutual of mine, that said, we're going to take these Northern Alliance Afghanis, these tribesmen, we're going to train them with the CIA to become ruthless killers and stealth soldiers, but then we're going to bring them in America, and we're going to be like, okay, just become a cab driver or a convenience store clerk. That's it. It's like, I guess, like, holy crap.
Like, I guess you can have a job, like, it's so...
After training them to, like, kill insurgents and guard poppy fields for 15 years, they're going to come to America and open up, like, a vape shop or something, Like, it doesn't make any... Like, this is, there was a tweet I retweeted from a guy that follows me. It was in reply to an Ange tweet. He's like, we live in a dark age of geopolitics and political guidance. We truly do. Like, we live in the dark ages when it comes to the global liberal empire and certain like strategic geopolitical visions. It's never, it's just, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's like in Canada recently, they had a vote en masse for not even an official government one, because people in India actually don't really care that much. Even people that are Sikhs, and the ones that stayed in India, they're not like really up into the separation thing. There was a vote that wasn't even sanctioned by the Indian government. There was a vote for Khalistani separatism in Canada. And there's like a lineup out the door of Sikhs that are voting for the separation in India, which I understand. Like, there's expats that vote in the elections of their country. I understand, but like, it was very surreal. Put it that way. It was very surreal. But it's just
that shouldn't even be allowed.
It shouldn't. No, it shouldn't. Like, I'm even skeptical of like, I shouldn't hate on expats, but it's like, I don't know. Like, something that does seem wrong to me. If you are an expat, but you're still like heavily invested in where you come, it's sort of like that meme of like, I'm an Eastern European nationalist tweeting from London, sort of deal. It's like, but whatever you do, don't force me to go back. I'm a Turkish nationalist living in London, but God forbid you deport me back to Turkey. Or
don't take
Romania.
Away my barber shop.
Yeah, God forbid, right? No, but like, that was like the whole thing with the National Guardsmen. That's like insane, and it's really tragic. And of course, like the response by the media immediately was to blame the administration for putting them in harm's way. So, but it's like they're serving a legitimate. It's not like the National Guard is a legitimate domestic thing, is it not, Prude? It's not like military.
It's legit. I mean, every state has its state National Guard,
but that's like everything. But that's like, what are you going to do? Like, say a Secret Service member dies protecting an ex-president or a current president. Are you going to say like, well, the Trump is so politically controversial that by even being there is putting them in harm's way?
Well, I mean, to some extent, that claim has been made about Secret Service agents, even before Trump was elected and when he was given Secret Service protection. But like, this was for weeks, and I mean, I think that it's a very good polemical tool. However, accurate it may be, because I don't know if we ever will get the motive behind the Afghan who did these things. For starters, like,
do we need a motive, really?
I don't need a motive. Like, he shouldn't have been in the country, and
we kind of know.
I mean, we kind of know, but like at the end of the day, the things that should be done to him, I can't say on this channel without getting a strike. So it's just very infuriating that such a person even exists in my country, especially after we were in that country for years for war. And to
be clear, I didn't support the Afghan or Iraq war. But I don't think that they were legitimate. But like at the same time, it's like the whole blunder of it was incredible. It's really,
but nevertheless, like we shouldn't be bringing in them here to begin
with. Of course,
it's that straightforward.
You know what the Soviets did? Pulled out. They just left them behind. They didn't even care. The main puppet government of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, I believe the Taliban hanged him. So they really didn't care about translators and collaborators, because honestly, like, I know it's pretty cold, and not that I support this, obviously, but if you're from the view of someone in Afghanistan that is like part of the Taliban government, it's like, yeah, they're traitors. Like, let's be real here. Like, they, from their view, they're traitors because they're supporting the regime.
Yeah, they would be seen as collaborators. Yes,
exactly. So don't be surprised if there's reprisals. Well, the same thing with the Soviet government. They just left them there. And the Soviets weren't exactly very kind to their collaborators in any country they were involved with. So, same with in Chechnya, right? It's a very unfortunate situation. I know we shouldn't have been there. But at the same time, like, well, it was like people were freaking out about Mandani's father saying something about terrorism. And like, I understand, like, it's, an uncouth thing to say. I wouldn't say something like that, but I think, like, from a purely cold academic analysis about how it's sort of like you have to separate the political context from like the actual academic discourse. It's like anyone could take, for example, Baudrillard's writings about terrorism in the early 2000s, and you could construe it as like, oh yeah, he supports terrorism or whatever. But he's not really. It's not like Baudrillard is supporting terrorism. It's just like, I don't know. I think like again, my criticism of the whole Mandani thing was always that these like boomer conservative types, the Fox News people, it's like him being a Muslim is the least salient thing there. It's like really,
Mamdani being a Muslim is the least of my problems. The thing is that a lot,
and he's gone back on it. He's appealed to people, But anyways, I shouldn't say.
I mean, the issue isn't so much that the issue is that he shouldn't be in the country to begin with.
Well,
and that at the end of the day, like, for I think a lot of normie conservatives, talking about Islam is like the only potentially okay way to even be remotely racially conscious. Unfortunately, does it get hijacked by other interests? Like, yes, it does, which is tragic.
Well, that's why Tucker Carlson called out Tommy Robinson recently. If you saw that,
I didn't see that. I saw that instead, fucking he had John Rich on, which, don't get me wrong, I like Big and Rich. I like the country singer. I'm just not interested in this like 2019, 2021 kind of schizo posting kind of stuff. Like, I don't need another, because like, you have to understand, at least for me, I grew up with like my grandmother. I would go to her house all the time when we would visit the States. And so like for me, that meant like I've read all of like Larry B. Jenkins's Left Behind series, and that left me with some interesting opinions on what the world is supposed to look like. But I was like, holy shit, we're in for a wild ride when this finally happens, huh? And thankfully, I mean, that hasn't taken place, nor do I kind of believe in that theology. But nevertheless, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, like this is kind of what we're doing. We're going to talk about the mark of the beast again, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, which, okay, fine. But I think that there are much bigger issues that I need to be concerned with here. And for me, like the biggest one really is like, this is just it's immigration. Like there's no other issue to me that really matters, because like, yeah, you're right, Ma'am Donnie is a sign, and like they've heralded it, like that Ben Rhodes character who used to be like Obama's like national security advisor was just basically saying,
Pod Save America.
yeah, that guy,
Yeah.
or one of them. But he was just like, this is what a post-Trump America looks like, i.e. a post-white America. And it was just like,
Oh,
cool. Like, this is what I have to look
yeah.
forward to. And it's like when he says, oh, Scandinavia, but brown. And it's just like, that's even worse. And so it's like, for me, like I as reductive as it is, I think that it's the biggest issue that matters here, because it's just like, well, what am I supposed to be doing then when this kind of politicking is the future? And even in Britain, like, what are we getting rid of now? Apparently, like David Lammy has announced that they're going to try and get rid of criminal jury trials, is what they had. He had announced that their government was, Starmer's government was going to be doing. And it's just like, that is probably the most insane thing I have ever heard in my life.
Well, what are they going to do besides?
I think it's just going to be by judges.
Oh my God.
But yeah, like no, that's their plan, is to get rid of jury trials, at least for criminal cases. How successful that will be remains to be seen. But to me, I think that's a pretty stark, like, oh, this is the kind of world that we're kind of heading towards, in part because of how bad things are getting politically and demographically. And it's just like, what do you do with that information, come what may with it?
Yeah, there was another great tweet by my friend and Julius. He said that democracy is the most anti-humanist of all political systems because it teaches you essentially from the time you're born to hate your fellow man because you're always being like clung down by them. And it's like, there's so many implications, I think, of when philosophers before the 19th or 18th or even 17th century, when they talked about order and rank, there is a sense that man's place within the world has been fundamentally disrupted, because if all politics becomes a sort of popularity contest where they're appealing to the base instincts of people, and people are sort of fundamentally unguarded from any sort of order or rank or position in life or guild, then it really does pit all against all. In a weird way, democracy isn't an escape from the sort of Hobbesian condition. Now, there's a lot of problems with the Hobbesian analysis of nature. It's a very big philosophic discussion. But in terms of just for the argument's sake, it's in a way, it's almost feeds into a very Hobbesian characteristic of people. And there's always a sort of, I think, a secret conceit with like populism or slopulism, where you are a champion of the people, but by definition, you have to work outside of the people. It's very much like, a Schmittian thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like Schmittian, a Gombinian type of thing, where you have
to work
outside.
within an inherent contradiction that
exactly.
you hope somehow never gets gamed out or solved. Because once you do, like, then it becomes, as I like to so often say, like nakedly obvious as to what the hell you're doing.
But
because like it just becomes the pure like your fellow man has been reduced to quintessentially just a number on a spreadsheet, like the ultimate dehumanization project.
No, exactly. And you have to operate as if man is a number on a spreadsheet, unbounded by history, rank, order, religion, identity. And in order to be okay, what can democracy then appeal to? It can appeal to one's base instincts, or it can appeal to a very, very universalizing picture of the subject to justify itself. And especially in huge mass democracies with hundreds of millions of citizens, it's untenable. You can't really look at the individual character of a person that has been, from the time they're born, given over into an identity that is greater than themselves, but rather only look at them from their, the sort of gaping maw, the endless voice that you must tame and appeal to. And so then democracy slowly slips into a form of entertainment. And it's a very shitty form of entertainment. But, it's sort of like, that's the problem. It is a massification of man. And therefore, democracy is an anti-humanist system because it essentially strips the human of all characteristics that aren't very easily quantifiable. And, people may hear this and think that we're insane, or like we want some kind of like totalitarian dictatorship, you know, some kind of like edgelord Boyd Rice fantasy. But we're just like, you know, purely analyzing what it means to relate to a fellow subject in current day quote unquote liberal democracies, not even republics or democracies of old, where people still had a very, you know, marketable differences between them, and you could operate within them, and there's always a degree of political haggling between groups and between classes. But in the absence of all of that, there really isn't anything to appeal to besides the stomach, you know. And I think that's why, you know, that's a great tweet. That was a great insight, that democracy does produce a disdain and anti-humanism. And a lot of people that think any sort of populism is the answer has to deal with those conditions, because it's really, most millenarian political projects are about re-envisioning what the subject of a particular constituency actually is. And if we're not, if it's sort of like you're going to re-engineer technocracy to deal with the quote unquote, I hate this term, but for lack of a better term, the human capital that you're given, then, you know, you're going to have to build around some very limiting confines, because people have, I don't want to be vulgar, but people have been mind fucked for like a long time. And so it's a very sticky question of like, how can you create a different form of politics in general that relies on a picture of man that is, or humanity, you know, that is quite different than what current day, mostly American, Western driven liberal democracies have produced. And so all the, it's again, like I mentioned in my essay, Lifeless Dead, when I quoted R.S. Backer, a lot of mainstream institutions that are public have given up on the quote unquote meaning game. There is no meaning that they can provide. They can only provide better functioning for more widgets or more whatever, more pleasure nodes that are being tickled at any given time. And so I know it's like pretty basic reactionary stuff, but even people that are, you know, I mean, even people like Yarvin, I think I respectfully disagree with a lot of their, I mean, well, not their critiques, but like certainly a lot of their propositions, I think, is trying to re-engineer a system that has proven itself to, you know, be sort of not really in keeping with the version of humanity that I would think is good. So I don't know.
There's a certain, I would agree in the fact that there has been this to a point where like the best we can do is offer you widgets, and that offer itself in turn only creates the last man.
Right.
And it's functionally, I think, what has become, or what was, I think, really represented in what you could call like the woke, like I guess what some people call peak woke. I don't think peak woke is over in any way, shape, or form. I believe in peak woke, like I believe in peak oil. Like there's been a lot of predictions, but there's also, and they've been wrong so far every single time. And so for me, at least, like I agree with you wholeheartedly, like because now all of a sudden has man been forced to live in this era where like functionally you are nothing, and that nothingness in itself has forced you now to comprehend that well, and this is what it's given the rise to, I think, like that irony poisoned politics of like the generation of like millennial like left-wing slopulism.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like the dirtbag left was the best embodiment of this. We're like, well, we believe in these like heckin' good things, man, and we have this like weird like remnant of say like 19th century humanism, but we also don't fucking believe in it at all whatsoever. And
it's all just cynical. It's
a cynical ploy, and it's the most important part out of all of this is that it's a cynical ploy. And you have to believe that it's a cynical ploy because this would force me to actually, you know, comprehend the value of my belief system and to consider what is my role to my fellow man. And that doesn't really happen anymore. And this is why I think, you know, for what it's worth, like the whole, like the Rick and Morty era of television, which I think is slowly on its way out. Like even that was this cold, embittered nihilism that tried to still tell a morality story in the same way that terrible TV shows like BoJack Horseman do, where it's like, you have to stop fetishizing your own sadness. And it's just like, but isn't the whole point of like your political project is to commemorate and to commiserate that form of misery? And when you do that, you yourself get to now be part of this project that will somehow sell me on, well, like, we can overcome this together. And this is why I think that, like, Mamdani's
Universal therapeutic state, like therapy
exactly,
for
and this is
everybody.
what makes
Yeah.
the Mamdani thing such an interesting phenomenon, because
Yeah.
what did Mamdani, and I think, and eventually so will Amy Acton in Ohio, they're
Oh
campaigning on
God.
the issues of, like, affordability, and, like, they're cynically, and it's very cynical and calculated, like the human touch or the human
Yeah.
value, or to pull an even older meme, what is the cost of a human life? What does that even what does that
Right.
look
Right.
like, so to speak? And that's, of course,
No,
from, like,
Madani's a huge release valve. People,
oh yeah.
I know you don't like guys like Marcel or Sean McCarthy, but like Sean McCarthy posting those Fell for It Again award memes, but like with Madani, he's a huge release valve because the Democrat establishment. Don't get me wrong. Do you remember the DNC where they had Palestinian protesters and they were ripping down the flag? Well, Madani, again, it's a therapeutic level of being pro-Palestine. It's a therapeutic level of Assanging the most important issue for Democrat voters under the age of like 50, right? But in actuality,
But
Mito's
what do
not
you
going to be
do? So,
moved.
okay, my question is
No.
going to be, like, what does that happen when they're the majority? Because
Oh, yeah. Then
eventually,
who
because this is the
knows?
thing, this is the Democratic Civil War that's playing out.
There's a right
Is
wing version of this, by the way, too. But they go on. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
There's, or I
There's
think
right.
you and I are
Like, I
intimately
mean, the
familiar with what right
DHS,
wing
like,
political
yeah.
release valves look
Like
like.
this whole
But
Sabrina Carpenter thing again. This is like incredible feats of key jangling from like these official accounts. But like, yeah, go ahead, Prue. What
But
were you gonna say?
I think what my thing that irks me is, as much as I don't really mind the quote unquote key jangling. I
Right.
think it would be better if the DHS account, or, like, imagine if they had a weekly Twitter space, a la a fireside chat, that explicated, here are the things that the administration has done by executive order, and then this is what the Department of Homeland
Yeah.
Security has instantiated in order to increase the number of deportations. I think that if
Yes.
you were to have something like that, would do a way better job at explaining things, because there's a lot of stuff that this administration that is done on immigration that is really good,
Oh yeah, of
that
course.
doesn't
Yeah.
get addressed, in part because the speed of our timelines really don't give you a chance to actually, like, well, what does that mean when they do
People
these
are already
things?
forgetting about these two National Guards people that
Well,
were. Yeah.
in the same way that, like, people have to be, like, brutally reminded that, like, oh, do you guys not remember that, like, Trump got shot at twice, and one of
Three
them with, like,
times. Three
three
times.
times, and one of them was by a guy with, like, some really curious Ukrainian connections, like
And
that.
also NGO connections as
Yeah, well,
well.
like, that's some interesting things that should be interrogated. Are we ever gonna get an answer to that? No. In the
No.
same way that, like, it really irks me when Tucker Carlson will, like, have, like, John Rich on to discuss, like, the end times prophecy, but it's like, he also puts together this amazing documentary about Thomas Matthew Crooks, and it's like, can stay on message with me, Tucker. Stay on message with me. It'd be so
Yeah. Yeah.
nice. So,
As,
but, like,
as someone, yeah, but I don't know, I can't afford. I can't fault Tucker for
no,
doing what
and
he
I mean,
wants to
also, I'm not
do.
Tucker's audience, so it's not my
Yeah.
place. But at the same time, like, the Democratic Civil War, to get back on that issue, is like, you're gonna see battles between more people like Melissa Slotkin, who I think is, like, former NSA or CIA, like,
And
these sort
Summer
of, like,
Lee.
like these white in CIA intelligence community, like, for lack of a better word, like, intelligence agency dommy mommy versus, like,
Yeah, versus
Lothrop
Summer Lee.
Stoddard's worst nightmare.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that's the future of Democratic primaries, depending on the area from now on. And I
Yeah.
think that they're gonna probably cater it out in a way where it's like, depending on how many whites are in a particular district, it'll be the intelligence mommy, versus, like, if it's a primarily, like, um minority heavy metropolitan area, it's going to be, like, a Mamdani character, just because, like, that's going to be the nature of demographics. And I think that that's going to be, like, the cynical way these things get answered,
But also
politically speaking.
people that are, not to say agree with everything she says, but like, because she's like all the prison abolition stupid nonsense. But like, for example, on the Palestine issue, like politicians like Summer Lee have been like pretty consistent, and like I think like a lot of them before the DNC were pretty sincere, but now they're like, oh yeah, actually I have to, that's not what the party stands for. and they find themselves on the out. And like you were saying, in a lot of ways, especially if you're like a New York City irony leftist, that like, you know, you're going to some, you know, boutique gallery opening by, you know, some BIPOC trans person of color, and you're listening to Chapo Trap House. In a lot of ways, like, Mondani was your version of key jangling. And now it's become like, now that he's in power, it's like, you know, it's, but like you were saying, like, what happens when the people that are sincere are the majority of the Democrat Party? You know, I think that when it comes to a lot of foreign policy issues, that's a different story. But when it comes to domestic issues, I mean, I don't know though, because it seems that a lot of people were, this happened with the whole stupid Sabrina Carpenter thing. A lot of people were saying like, oh, you know, like the right wing had this moment of changing culture and nothing happened and they burned through blah, blah, blah. But when you really look at it, was culture actually changing, or was it that a lot of people were invested in a lot of memes and the greater mainstream culture wasn't changing along with them? I think on the political left, you could say the same as well when it comes specifically to the Palestine issue. You know, I mean, even in mainstream, well, I mean, Hollywood and the mainstream media, where was the issue really being moved forward for the past 2 years? Or was it just a more or less grassroots media network of people within leftist circles that were making it a forefront issue? You know what I mean? So it's like the mainstream establishment seems to still be at like 2009 progressive neoliberalism that everybody hates for different reasons. That you're not going to get, like the political right, you know, we still have like libertarian fusionism and like pro-Zionist stuff in terms of like the mainstream halls of power. And on the political left, you have their own version of that, which is like stuff that a lot of like die-in-the-wool leftists actually don't agree with, or is sort of like the conceit of 2009 Obama world forever. And it's not moving the needle in any direction. And so what happens, like you were saying, when a lot of the people that are running the establishment, when they go away through age or through even just, you know, well, dying, but also age, I think there's a move to foster on both sides a lot of younger people that are more or less psyoped into the same political, marginal, narrow way of operating, way of doing things. There is obviously moves from older people to cultivate younger ones that have the same mindset or don't, or sort of like they're selling it in a quote unquote based or quote unquote, whatever the leftist version of based is. It's like they're trying to get younger people on board with a slightly nicher, more reworked version of things that can, that, you know, support mainstream boomer truth regime narratives anyways. There's obviously that when it comes to Mondani. There's versions of it in the political right, which I'm not going to name people because that'll piss people off. But, you know, it's like there's obviously that attempt, right? And so, but then what happens when they're the sort of talking heads are overwhelmed by the milieu that they came from. And I don't...
Well, that's like this. That's the $64,000 question. Because I think in a lot of ways there has been a substantial like left wing dissatisfaction.
Oh yes,
with where the world is going.
They needed Mondani. The Democrats needed Mondani to jangle the keys in front of them. They like the what, like, well, okay, I'm with the right.
Well, I think also like there's just
yeah,
like with there's also just the plain like there was the power vacuum was just fucking there. Right. Like Eric Adams had been investigated. They wanted him gone. Who else?
The crown's in the gutter for the Democrats. The crown is in the gutter.
No, I mean that's what I'm saying. So like it was really going to be fucking anybody's ball game if they wanted to take it. And I mean, the more research I've done into Mamdani, the more he is like Obama and just like Obama, born in a foreign country. Like it's kind of just wild that like we've gotten millennials have another Obama figure, except
Can
now...
we say that on YouTube, Prude?
I'm already here.
Well, I guess Trump's the president. I mean, he's a truther, so
so was Hillary Clinton. Like
Yeah,
the OG
right.
truther is Hillary Clinton, lest we forget. But it's wild that we have another like foreign-born socialist now running a major metropolitan area, and he can't be president, thank God.
No,
but like.
no.
That kind of politicking isn't going to go away anytime soon. And it is a sign of, I think, things to come. I mean, he's incredibly well connected with numerous NGOs, and it's not pretty, because he is a very smooth political operator.
He is. Mamdani?
Mamdani is I think he's very good. And the team around him is very good. And he's a representative of a different kind of machine, like political machine, that we haven't really seen reach its full potential. Like, that stuff is coming in the future, and it's not going away. So I mean, like, he's the sign of what things are to come, which are these like kind of like millennial social media, say all the right things, and we're gonna have like incredible marketability, because as people talk about like, oh, the Obama coalition's falling apart, like, no, it really isn't. It just got better. And I'm not talking about like, who's turning out to vote or whatever, or the demographics of the country, which get worse day by day. But it's more about the fact that there is a very obvious group of people that have taken what Obama was, which was this young, savvy progressive who can speak well in front of a teleprompter, have a great social media game, because Obama was the first president to really do that. And we're going to turn it into the most finely tuned machine known to human.
But he's very good at politically operating within the power brokers of the Democrat Party.
Oh,
yeah.
Like,
Donnie's great at that.
He's very good at that. And it's just like, well, was anyone really surprised by this? I mean, you kind of have to be a good operator to get that far. It's different than being like the crazy progressive that just like speaks out into the ether, or even this crazy right winger that speaks out into the ether. Like, there's just you have to be good at this kind of thing.
I think in New York politics, they also wanted to like clear away the dead wood of guys like Cuomo and Silva, and who was the former mayor of New York? What was the guy's name? Not West. What was the guy's name? Eric Adams.
Adams. Yeah.
The Democrat Party in New York. I mean, New York pretty much, since Giuliani has been a one-party state. They had to clear away the dead wood, and they needed like a new face. But I found this very interesting. There was a rant I did when I was driving that I kind of cut it out of the video, the art video I posted this month, yesterday, where I talked about how it's very strange that the American right wing is in a weird position, because a lot of their fate is tied to Donald Trump, and I would think logically JD Vance in 2028, and depending on the primaries, how they go next year. It's very interesting how a lot of younger people in the Anglosphere, and even in greater Europe, they are in a different position, in the sense that a lot of the younger people will be markedly more right-wing in these other countries, to which I include Canada, the UK, I mean, Ireland especially, France, Germany, although they have very oppressive political systems that, well, same with the UK, Australia, where it's like very weird, because the political left in America, it's like the crown is in the gutter for whoever is going to take it. But throughout the rest of the Western world, it's like the right wing, the crown is in the gutter. And the sort of like managerial, progressive, liberal system are going to suffer a lot of severe legitimacy problems in the future, as the various elites of these nations, or the EU, for example, as the elite becomes more sclerotic and decrepit, and they lack any vision, they lack any sense of rulership in terms of being nimble and having any vitality in terms of new ideas, of even managerialism. And so it's a very strange situation where, not to say like the 2010s is going to come back in America, no, you never know, right? Like, if there is like a trouncing of Trumpism on the cultural level and politically, maybe there will be a situation where the rest of the Western world is maybe a bit more right-wing than even America, and who knows what that's going to entail. I mean, I hope, actually, not that I would hope that America submerges into terminal woke. I mean, I love my American friends too much for that I love my girlfriend too much for that to happen. But like, I think it's very interesting when you look at political and cultural elements going into the 2030s, what's going to happen. Now, I mean, there is a chance in this next 3 years for the American right and for Trump to sort of steer the course into having a more solid power base, right? But I mean, there is a lot of problems to that as well. And so I want to have a
There's a
fair
lot of work
analysis.
that needs to be done.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I do think it's very interesting how a lot of the more leftist, progressive, liberal elites in the rest of the Western world, you get a sense that their legitimacy is running out, and like a lot of them are running on fumes. And but that's when they're the most dangerous, unfortunately. If you look at Keir Starmer, or if you look at these clowns in the Carney government here, it's I don't know. It's a very it will be a the 2030s will be a very interesting political situation for the Western world. Put it that way. This is my only prediction I can make.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Like I think the crown is in the gutter. Like you said, I think that the left is going to be in a really weird spot.
Right.
Like, especially for all. I mean, I could be totally wrong because I've not been paying as close attention as I should. But like the EU, right? Like who
Right.
replaces Ursula? Who replaces
MERS.
MERS? Like there's a
Macron.
lot in the gutter, so to speak, that kind of leaves things really open to anyone's game. But I mean,
Yeah.
as we talk about like the speed of where the 2020s and the 2030s are going, I think this might be a good way for us to transition into the essay I wanted to read today.
Oh yeah. Is anything we said relevant to the Koselleck essay, or?
Yeah, actually,
Okay, there
quite a
you
bit
go.
because I mentioned that like our just how often we forget things that happened like just weeks ago. So today we're going to be reading a small chapter, a small essay from Reinhart Koselleck's book, Sediments of Time on Possible Histories. And we're going to be reading section 6, Does History Accelerate? And this was inspired because of what Sandy and I were talking about yesterday about living memory and how that changes both historiographically and linguistically. So I'm going to share screen and we're going to get into it. And I think that this is a pretty good essay. I read it earlier today, and
Oh yeah.
we've covered a little bit of his work in the past, but we'll get started. So this is section 6.
So for those who don't know, Koselleck was, I believe they said he was one of the most important historians of the 20th and 21st century. So
And you
he
owe
inva-
almost all
he
of your framework for conceptual history to him.
exactly, yeah. Yeah. Well, also like Haller and
Yeah.
well, Carl's bad, you know.
Carlsbad trying to. It's a
Yeah.
shame he's not on Twitter anymore, but that's a whole other discussion.
I apparently people have rumored that he's an anon lurker, but I desperately wish Carlsbad to come back and right all of the
I think he's
wrongs.
done his project, you know.
Yeah, true. Yeah. You know. You meet the Buddha on the road, right?
You do. So we'll carry on here. All right. Does history accelerate? Make haste, my smith, to fit the steed. Day passes away as you tarry over the deed. How your great horses steams in its might. Where do you rush to, my worthy knight? The first German railroad poem, Adalbert von Cosmos' The Steam Steed, written in 1830, 5 years before the first German rail car rolled from Nuremberg to Fürth, starts with these somewhat hackneyed couplets portraying a half-familiar, half-uncanny scene, all too typical of late romantic ballads. As the title shows, the poem thematicizes the shift from horse to locomotive to a monstrous horse, or to put it non-metaphorically, to acceleration. For one, our locomotive gains a day in traveling around the world from east to west. This is still situated with the framework of calendrical experience. But its speed increases. My steam steed, model of all that is fast, leaves the course of time itself in the past. Now racing off into the setting sun, it appears from the east, for the day has begun. As if Chamiso's locomotive casts the shadow that time itself lets fall back from the future onto the past. The train subverts not only clock time, but historical time. It circles the earth so quickly that, aided by the turning of the earth, it can even catch up with the past. I have robbed time of its secret, wound it back from yesterday to yesterday. The night locomotive thus comes to witness its own birth. He disturbs his grandfather, the bridegroom flirting with his bride and is angrily turned away, and conveys posterity's greetings to Napoleon on St. Helena, and then finds him earlier in 1804 and warns him before he crowns himself emperor. Oh, if only he had heeded the warning, the critical Bonapartist Chamisso added. The blacksmith, who wants 1,900 gold pieces as payment for his services, the 19th century settles its debts in gold, wants to know something else, though, namely the future of the stock market and whether entirely confidentially is it wise to bet on Rothschild. But by then, the writer, however, had already disappeared with his steam horse. Chamisso's poem is not only just the first in Germany, but also the most striking contemporary poem lyricizing railroad technology. The soon quite fashionable poetry of steam came to represent the entire range of social and political attitudes on offer at the time, from hymns to progress, with every rail that we lay, new life is brought into the world, Louise Otto Peters, to fear of the energies that threaten to destroy culture and spirit once released. The increase in speed remained a constant challenge that elicited genuine shock. Machines could now accomplish what had been previously done by horses, wind, or water, and it was difficult to describe the transition from the nature-bound time of forward movement to a time made technically controllable. At first, natural metaphors were used. Exotic animals or mythical forms were attributed to the locomotive. Rhinoceroses, dragons, elephants, colossus, giants were all evoked to show that the locomotive could do more than a single horse. It could cover 6 miles or 24 kilometers in an hour. It could draw an entire train of wagons from one location with people, luggage, and freight, and even horses on them. But Chamisso was the only author who outdid these metaphors of the technological generation of power and thematized acceleration itself. Here, something unexpected emerged. In a fairy tale-like inversion, he saw acceleration increasing to a point where the past could be caught up with, although not the future. The more one opens up, the more the other escapes from view. After reading Chamisso's poem, one is almost forced to conclude that historicism is the true essence of progress. Now there's a good through line. For it becomes increasingly clear that what the past was, but increasingly unclear what the future will bring.
Interesting. So this is like would you say that this is the anti-Popperism when it comes to like historicism, or does Popper just have like his own idiosyncratic version of it?
I think that you could contrast this to Popper, but I don't think it's like I think it's still kind of apples to oranges.
In a way, yeah.
In a way, though, when it comes to acceleration, like Koselleck is really reintroducing sort of like this catastrophism perspective of how speed changes things, which I think brings an interesting intersection between like Thomas Moynihan's, speed, like railway spine comparison, but also like Virilio's whole idea of dramology, the study of acceleration.
Yeah.
Like all three of these kind of like intersect because I think it is truth that even like we've talked about this before, like our ability to comprehend time is so fucked by the mediums that we use, i.e. like Twitter, because like my go-to example, right? Like 2017 was almost 10 years ago. It was 8 years ago.
Oh my God.
And if I were to show you the picture, the thumbnail of that Ben Garrison comic of Anita Sarkeesian calling Carl Benjamin a garbage human being from his video, What Happened at VidCon 2017, you would feel like an ancient person. You would feel like Rip Van Winkle, who is now woken up from 200 years. You're like, what year is it? And now all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, Carl Benjamin, like he ran for UKIP, and now he hosts his own like sort of news program, alt GB news type deal. Like,
does he still do This Week in Stupid?
Does he still do This Week in Stupid? Where's Pastor Louis? Where are the Louis Laval rants?
Is V still a furry? Is he still into
Did you
vor?
kick V?
Did you kick V? Oh my God. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of that little rant I did on Twitter and Substack, that long post about Baudrillard and the shorts, the mini series Chernobyl, how it sort of like was the gateway into the 2020s in a weird way. It reminds me of this passage about media that Baudrillard wrote about in the 80s from the essay, The Evil Demon of Images, or the otherwise known as the Diabolical Image, that one particular essay from 85. He writes about the Vietnam War and Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. He says, polymorphous montage technique, which allows it to ironically adapt to all possibilities. More generally, the image is interested only in its role as reflection, mirror representation of it, or counterpart to the real, but also where it begins to contaminate reality in its model to it only conforms to reality, the better it distorts it, or better still. So the image, the more it conforms to the real with imaging recording technology, the more it contaminates what the real is. Where it appropriates reality for its own ends, which anticipates the point that the real no longer has time to be produced as such. It is not only daily life which has become cinematographic and televisual, but war as well. It has been said that the war is the continuation of politics by other means. We can also say that the images, media images, are the continuation of war by other means. Take Apocalypse Now. Coppola made its film the same way that Americans conduct war. In the sense, it is the biggest possible testimony. It is a spectacle. It is exaggeration, the same excessive means, the same monotonous catter, the same success. War is a trip, a technological and psychedelic fantasy. War is a succession of special effects. Coppola does the same thing. He tests the power of intervention of cinema, tests the impact of cinema, becomes a vast machine of special effects. In this sense, his film is very much the prolongation of war by other means. It is the completion of Vietnam. So in a weird way, the speed of media is tandem with the speed of history itself, in terms of not just the sort of fantastical release of what Americans wanted the Vietnam War to be, or a certain section of America, but also in terms of the image itself becoming co-tandem with the war. When people remember the Vietnam War, do they remember all of the Walter Cronkite Tet Offensive things, the actual footage, or do they remember all of the Rolling Stones songs, or do they remember a Platoon, or do they remember Apocalypse Now?
Well, that just depends on the
You know?
generation.
It depends on the generation as well.
Like,
But,
like I'm sure your old man or my grandfather or anyone who was alive at that time who was young probably has more memories of, like, the news reports or people coming home from the war or the Smothers Brothers, but not, as again, this is about like the distance of the past to the now.
right.
Is that like our frame of reference is now shaped by, I know it's a fun term to use and it can be dangerous, but like lived experience, like this is why all of the comparisons about Iraq and Afghanistan in 2004 were about Vietnam, because John Kerry and George W. Bush were young military age men when that happened. Of course, Bush served in the Air National Guard. Kerry got Purple Hearts and then threw them over the White House lawn. So, I mean, like, again, like for us, like our conceptualization allows these new technologies to reshape the cultural perception. Like, because I'm sure, like, it's very funny because, like, even like take the Vietnam film, like Good Morning Vietnam, right? Like, Adrian Cronauer is a real person, and last I checked, he's still alive. And when the film came out, like, he kind of went on tour talking about what he did and what made the catchphrase so famous. And he was just like, I'm not Robin Williams, and if I did half the shit that Robin Williams does in that movie, I would still be in Leavenworth until I die. And it's like, but like our understanding of the war is totally reformatted by those very things there. And in turn, my understanding of that conflict is not shaped so much by, Cronkite or the Rolling Stones, but it's shaped by, like you had said, Platoon or
Full Metal Jacket,
Metal Jacket, or even, like the things they carried by Tim O'Brien, nothing too, still somewhat removed from the actual experience of what it may have been to be an American in 1968.
Well, even like Black Hawk Down, like Mike Durant is still like alive. He's still like a real person that consulted on the film. So it's like, it's a very strange thing in the sense that the capacity to record the past increases to where the past is no longer alien or no longer outside of experience to the point where it becomes mythologized. Now, there is a mythologization with prior media. Like, we can look at a film from the 90s and we see, like, right away, like, there you go. Like, that's, the whole found footage obsession me and Parker Longbow was talking about. But it is still in the same way, like, it brings us closer. Even now with internet technology and like early YouTube live streams on Google Hangouts, like all those Sargon streams during Gamergate, and the whole, like you mentioned, the Garbage Human video. Like, it's strange how, like that was a while ago, but it becomes, but anyways, well, let's get to Koselleck's point. I guess we've had
sure.
Yeah.
Shimizu was not alone in his interpretation, dressed up like a fairy tale. It was part of an experience of acceleration typical of the Vormar's pre-1848 period. A new era of world history is beginning, as Hein reported from Paris on the opening of the Rouen-Orleans line, and our generation can be proud to proclaim that it was there. This generation experiences both more and less here than in the thunder of cannons at Valmy during the French Revolutionary Wars. We merely note that our entire existence is thrown, tossed onto new tracks, that new relations, new joys, and new struggles await us, and the unknown holds a fearful attraction, seductive and at the same time alarming. Because of this new unpredictability of the future, another contemporary, Edward Berman, wrote of governments that they distrust these enterprises because they cannot calculate their end, but time cannot be made to stand still. Even Ludwig I of Bavaria, a monarch who called for new railroads to be built, took up his quill to write against the new future. For it is written that the earth will go up in smoke. At home, everywhere, and nowhere, the human race moves vagrantly over the earth. Like steam, the racing wagon has begun its revolving course, now its goal obscured from view. Even today's generation, which has witnessed live television coverage, rockets, jet airplanes, moon landings, and Earth satellites, has not incurred a shift of experience to that of the generation in the Vormars. It is all as though not the flight and its acceleration, but the plane lifting up off the ground were itself the experience.
Right.
Indeed, it would seem that accelerating events could be part of everyday life. The Brockhaus Encyclopedia anticipated something similar in 1838, writing that flight would not approximate the breakthrough that was achieved by the railroad in terms of technological mastery of time. Does this acceleration exist in history, or is history itself that accelerates? I'll divide these questions into two sub-questions. First, I'll take up the uniqueness of the experience of acceleration and the empirical context of the Industrial Revolution that was beginning at the time. His thesis is that acceleration corresponds to the denaturalization of the hitherto traditional experience of time as an indicator of specifically modern history. This
very, very powerful theme in New Age groups to traditionalists and so on and so forth. Very, very persistent theme.
I might get this flagged, but like that theme that you just described, Gio, and New Age, Heaven's Gate, anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not alone there. Secondly, with intellectual history, I'll examine theorems or myths that address something resembling historical acceleration prior to the Industrial Revolutions. My second thesis is that as a category of historical expectation, acceleration is old, and that it came to incorporate new expectational contents beginning in the 16th century, but that it could only become fully saturated concept of experience with the Industrial Revolution. In other words, starting in the 16th century, the foreshortening of time was already envisioned by apocalyptic thought that became a metaphor of acceleration, expressing new, different contents than the originally intended by Christian eschatology.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, I think because our brains have been fried with instant communication, I don't think we can really, like he was saying, we can't really experience history with the same gravity or impact. Or the fact that we feel a sense. It's very funny because Berto said this on Timeline Earth about how he can feel that like scientific progress is sort of slowing down, sort of like that one scientist in the 20s or in the 1820s that said that we're not going to discover anything after like Maxwell's equations or whatever, like it's like, no, actually there's more to discover. But now we feel like technology has only progressed to where like there's just small increments of it getting better, like AI, right?
Yeah.
But there was that famous interview with I think it was the last living American Civil War veteran, who I think he fought for the Union. And the interviewer's trying to ask him, was this in the 50s?
I think the last of them died in the 1950s. I think the last.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna go look it up before I totally make.
I think it was the 50s. Yeah.
Was Albert Henry Wilson, a Union drummer boy who died in 1956.
Oh, yeah, and they asked him like, like the incredible things that you lived through in terms of you started off in life with horse and buggy, then you got to cars and airplanes, and then you went from the radio to television in that span of time. It's like, I know that we talk about how, even on the show, we talk about how history is accelerated to this extent that we can feel history moving, but you could never imagine in a million years what the experiential reality of someone who lived through the Civil War going up to the 1950s, the end of the 20th century would be. That's impossible. The amount of change, the amount of the sort of the total nature of overturning to your world that encompasses, it's incredible. We could never, I mean, maybe in the future there would be some, in the near future there would be some like great technological advancement or whatever, but maybe we're just gonna go all in the goon pods and we're gonna go in the
if any
mutilated
actual like space exploration, like if anything Mars related actually happens, that might be it. But even
we're gonna
then,
and we're gonna have to nuke it anyways because the ghost. But it's just gonna,
it's not like it hasn't been nuked before, Gio.
Someone was saying that in the chat. Yeah. No, but like, yeah, maybe Mars exploration, but then maybe we'll have the pig exo wombs. Did you see this?
I saw. Yeah, I've seen this discourse. This is not the first time it's popped up either.
I mean, they've been talking about this since the 1970s. Let's be
real. I was
real.
about to say the artificial womb has been discussed by virtually every left winger in forever.
Yeah, but they essentially strip a pig of all vital functions except for birthing, and they like put a weird CRISPRed fetus into it, and it's like literally like, you know, that Peter Griffin meme, man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. But anyways, let's move on.
It's absolutely insane that this is where we're going, but also I think he's right in the sense that you and I will not live through anyone who was born in the latter half of the 19th century who dies in the 1960s.
Well, like look at Ernst Jünger. He lived 100 years. He lived from the First World War to when did he die? The 70s?
I think the 90s. He lived to be like 100.
Oh, that's right. He died in 94. Yeah.
He lived to see the Soviet Union die.
Yeah.
Like he lived to see the
Soviet Union rise and die.
Yeah. He's like, I have outlived my mortal enemy.
He outlived Ernst Jünger outlived the Soviet Union. Holy crap. That's like no, you can't imagine that. You know, I mean, of course, like Ernst Jünger was an exceptional human being. You know what I mean? Like but even an average person that lived through the rise and fall of communism in the Soviet Union, like that's incredible. You know, like that was like that film with Colin Farrell. You know that one where they're trying to go to Tibet?
Are you?
They're like in a gulag and they tried to escape the communists by going to Tibet on this like. Oh, what was it called? Someone in the chat would know.
I'm literally looking up. The Way Back.
The Way Back. Yeah.
2010.
Yeah. I like to imagine Peter Griffin was where that quote came from. Yeah. No, I believe it. You know where that quote came from?
Isn't it a Tesla quote?
I think so, but didn't a Vietnam veteran engrave it on his
Oh yeah, it is
Zippo?
It is from Tesla. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it is from. I'm pretty sure it's on a Zippo.
Yeah, a Vietnam veteran engraved it in his Zippo. Which what's funny is that there was actually a lot of highly literate Vietnam veterans that they volunteered from university, and anyways, like even it's very funny how like Gore Vidal a veteran, but like William F. Buckley didn't go to Vietnam.
I don't know if that's. I don't know.
I think no. Sorry, I'm thinking of Oliver Stone was a Vietnam.
No, he worked. He was a warrant officer, but I mean he.
William F. Buckley?
No, Gore Vidal. But I mean he served in the Aleutian Islands in Alaska.
Oh, that was great. That's.
I don't think he saw any. Obviously, didn't see any combat.
I think Oliver Stone actually did see combat, if I recall. Anyways, let's move on.
I don't know if Buckley served in the military.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
No, he served stateside apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was an OCS during the war.
Oh well, yeah, that yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Fair.
Fair.
So neither of them really saw any action, but let's
Oh,
start.
I imagine Gore Vidal I imagine both of them saw quite a bit of action during those days.
I think they were both attracted to different things.
All right, yeah.
But let me carry on. So here we go.
Yeah.
I want to move towards. We'll start here.
Yeah.
So we covered a section about the creation of the mechanical clock and how that's changed things for experiencing time.
Mhm.
So he says, for our purposes, it's important to recognize that the regularly running clocks that intruded into everyday life instigated and were signs of a lasting order, but not of acceleration. However much they allowed for it to be measured in the physical realm, the dwindling hourglass and its fluid time became an allegory for evanescence. And of vanitas, the mechanical clock in turn became the allegory of constancy, of wisdom and utility. It was only at the end of the 18th century, when the clock was fully integrated into everyday life, that it could also represent vanitas iconographically. The metaphor of the machine, especially of clockwork, that came to encompass the cosmos, society, and humanity in the 17th century, was still a pre-progressive metaphor. It evoked regularity, the stable household of God, nature, or humans that had been set up, then ran steadily, but not their acceleration. A clock could measure acceleration, but not symbolize it. This first became possible with the railroad and its metaphorics. Marx spoke of revolutions as the locomotives of history, not the clocks of history. This new metaphor indicates the threshold only after which acceleration could coalesce into the dominant mode of experience of a new generation. You want to take on?
Sure. Um, Our findings about the Seepockle threshold Punctuel include the fact that the increase in speed in life as a whole had already been registered prior to the invention of the steam engine, mechanical looms, and the telegraph, which accelerated transportation, textile production, and the transmission of news. And that's, excuse me, that is a very important element there, the transmission of news. We are dealing with the initial running up phase that led to a new dimension of temporal experience only after crossing the threshold. Quote, our beginning, began to live more quickly and more intensely than before, Niebuhr observed. Looking back at the 18th century, quote, but this was still taking shape at the time of the revolution and has primarily developed since. Pre-mechanical increases in speed have been registered in many ways since the 17th century. The expansion of networks of roads and canals increased the volume of freight and the distance it could be transported. The motivation for this expansion could be mercantile or political. In England, which had always enjoyed the advantage of cheap, fast waterways, a network of roads was constructed after the Jacobite pretender Bonnie Prince Charlie had penetrated as far into England in 1745 that no troop could be mustered quickly to counter him. But we are not concerned here with explanations, but with the phenomenon themselves. The average speed of private carriages on French roadways more than doubled between 1814 and 1848, from 4.5 kilometers per hour to 9.5. In Prussia, in the same period, the mail coach journey from Berlin to Cologne likewise shrank from 130 to 78 hours. Isn't that like an hour or something between Berlin and Cologne nowadays, or a few hours?
Probably about an hour or two. I don't know
Yeah,
actually. Hold on, let's go find out. Cologne to Berlin.
by car.
By car, no, by car it's like 6 hours.
Okay, but by train it's only like an
By
hour.
train it's 4.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
That's
there
still a
you go.
day drive. I mean,
That
you're
still is a
basically
day
driving
drive.
across the country.
Yeah, yeah.
You're driving across the country functionally.
I didn't
Which I mean,
realize
keep that
Germany
in
was
mind.
that
Like, I mean, you're basically driving because Cologne is not too far from Dusseldorf.
Right.
But you're basically driving very close to the edge from the German border from like the Netherlands, and then you're driving to Berlin, which the closest city, I guess, from Berlin would be Mielspors from in Poland. I mean, like you do drive functionally across the country. So great. It takes you about 7 hours to drive across Germany entirely.
Whoa.
Which I mean, as an American, is kind of humorous because I can drive for 7 hours and
Be in the same
functionally
state.
and be in the same state in regards to Texas. I mean, it's a very weird thing to consider.
Yeah.
Because it's strange. Like as an American, I think so much more in physical geographic distance in relation to time. Like, I will tell people where they ask about going somewhere, like, oh, that's about a 3 hours drive, or that's like, oh, that's like an 8 hour drive. That's a day trip, da 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 da. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that from a personal even when we're talking about here, like the average speed of private carriages, right? Like
Yeah.
um I can drive steadily upwards to 80 miles an hour on a Texas highway with little to no concern and live my life to the fullest.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm there. Yeah, like, oh, maybe it take me 8 hours or whatever, but like, it's like, oh, I'm in like Little Rock, Arkansas, or oh, I'm in like Memphis. Like this is it's insane to consider
Yeah.
how quickly you can travel, even though like it takes a long time. But because the fact that I, as an individual, have the autonomous capability to like say, oh, like I have a 3-day weekend. Like, what'll be fun? Like Friday, I'll get off work and I have Monday off. So what sounds good? I'm gonna drive for like until midnight to get to my location, get to a hotel, and I want to enjoy my Saturday and Sunday doing this, and I'll drive home on Monday lazily. Like that's a very physical thing to do.
Yeah.
And we take it for granted because the car is so ubiquitous in American culture to a thing. I don't, it's very hard to, I hate to do the European mind can't comprehend this, but like it is certainly on a different level here in the States than even say Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean,
I mean, you
Canada,
started to experience it because you drive to the States.
yeah, yeah, frequently, yeah. So, but it's funny because like the railroad really did build Canada. Like Confederation couldn't have happened without the railroad. So it's like my country has been like very
Well, I mean, even in America,
formed
like the
by it.
Transcontinental Railroad is
Yeah,
considered like
yeah,
the symbol of reunification after the war between the states.
right, right, yeah. Like when the frontier like fully closed.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
was about 1890.
yeah, yeah. We can observe something similar to communications. Prior to the establishment of the electrical telegraph, Thomas Sommering had invented one in 1810, but it proved unstable or unusable. Optical telegraph networks, whose tradition stretched back to antiquity, were developed to perfection. The speed of signaling was increased enormously, whether through the necessary abbreviation of Baroque administrative texts or the construction of a system of signals transmitted from tower to tower. In the French Revolution, the system of communication, which was also a system of control, was systematically developed. The fall to the Austrians of Conde sut l'Acoste, Acoste in 1794 was reported from Lille to Paris by optical telegraph many hours earlier before the mounted courier arrived. Napoleon's successes were also aided by the acceleration of the transmission of messages in this way, which also led to the execution of the Tyrolean rebellion leader Andras Hofer after receipt of a supposedly directed order transmitted by optical telegraph from Napoleon, even though the majority of judges had voted against it. And so often this is the case, business only later caught up with political and military interests. Cases are conceivable in which having messages arrive just a few hours earlier could be worth much more than the yearly costs of the telegraph lines and all the equipment, Professor Bush noted in 1800. A guiding principle of the world of trade and finance in the coming centuries, saving time increases costs and profits even more. What then is the takeaway from all of this? Prior to the invention of new technological instruments of acceleration, the modern state and civil society had already achieved an astounding velocity in their transportation systems. However, they ran up against an absolute limit dictated by nature. Roads can be improved, coaches refined, but the power of horses remained limited. Sailing ships could be perfected, but in the end, their speed depended on the wind. The optical telegraph could be rationalized, but transmission was thwarted by nightfall or by rain and clouds in the day, not infrequently for days or weeks. Sometimes a partial report was also, was all, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Partial report was all there was for days. Thus, victory was reported from Spain without anyone in Paris learning whether Wellington or Napoleon was the victor. Once acceleration was unleashed in interpersonal traffic, it could only be driven further once technological inventions allowed it to surpass nature-given limits. Only in the wake of the French and Industrial Revolutions did acceleration begin to become a universal principle of experience. Let me list several criteria for the principle of experience formulated at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the important part here, like the French and Industrial Revolutions, like the transmission of information. I mean, you and I experience this almost instantaneously because um, no one knows who a victor is because, or I mean, especially on like the timeline, right? Like we can report on something happening, and like even
Right.
the self-licking ice cream cone of nothing ever happens becomes sort of this, I think, in a way, this like McLuhan-esque auto amputation of like, well, there's too many variables to consider, ergo nothing ever happens. Like it's
The immediate events just wraps up in rapid time.
Yeah, and
day,
also like a person's take or a prediction can age like dog shit within 30 seconds. Or even less than that, because new information can be retweeted within like minutes of clarification. And then all of a sudden, like whatever like thesis that you had postulated, like nothing matters anymore because it's wrong.
Yeah.
And like that is something that I don't think fundamentally we've come to terms with as a society, because there's no room now to slow down. Because if you try and slow down and experience something, you're
left
often
behind.
you're left behind, or you're punished for wanting to focus on a very specific issue.
Oh yes, I know this by experience.
I think we all have to some extent. Like, there's a reason why I always come back to like the media studies thing, because like, as boring or repetitious as it can be, I think it's so like we live in the most gamified system of network information ever devised by man. Like, don't you want to understand how that game works? I don't know. Like, to me, like that's kind of an important thing I would love to spend the rest of my life sort of studying on, because it's just like this is changing at such a rapid pace, and then you are injecting new information into the system that is junk. And by junk, I mean non-human. For instance, there's a YouTube like historian channel that his whole shtick is debunking or clarifying how accurate an AI narrated or AI generated report about a certain like World War II bomber is. And he's like, well, let's rank this AI channel's, B-24 Liberator video. And it's like, wow, almost everything in it was wrong. And it's just like, and then like the replication crisis only magnifies because of it. And so we are now experiencing the acceleration of what I guess you could almost call it like a digital false consciousness, where it's like, well, this is what's purported to be true, but the facts on the ground don't report that. So how can we ensure that this is true? But also it keeps replicating, and it's almost like cancerous, pseudo information. And so now we get to experience the great malignancy of time and space, because not only are we like accelerating faster, and we're accelerating faster away from each other like normal planetary bodies, but also what's catching up to us is junk information, bots, and the rest of the world. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm still moving so fast, but everyone else is caught up, or things are catching up that I have no actual control or immune response to. And it's just, how do you process that? And I think that's going to be like the real defining, I almost want to call it like a neurological speciation between like the iPad baby versus like the person who is maybe like raised with like a kid who sends them to like some classical Christian education or something,
some
like
Mullendorf
that.
school.
Yeah, like it's really going to be a crazy night and day difference.
Oh my god, that's what the proliferation of junk information is sort of like a very terrifying thing. Like people talk about this like boomers and AI videos, but it's like even like normal people are subject to this weird like pollution, like the psychic pollution that is everywhere. And like like you get AIs to generate a map, for instance, of something. It's like and it comes out for like very crazy nonsensical things. But there's much more to talk about with that. But
Oh,
anyways,
Absolutely. I'll carry on here. In each case, it is acceleration that distinguishes the temporal experience of this time from all previous times. But the metaphor for a self-induced, self-accelerating system was still sought in vain. Acceleration seemed to take hold of one realm after another, not merely by the technical work of industry, the empirically verifiable core of all acceleration, but of everyday life, politics, the economy, and population increases as well. The bourgeois world would unfolded under the sign of acceleration. Ever more pianos, the mark of distinction of every bourgeois salon, was produced in ever shorter periods of time. In 1750, a piano maker produced around 20 instruments. Thanks to the mechanical production of metal frames, Broadwood of London manufactured 400 pianos in 1802 and 1,500 in 1824. Prices sank, pitch rose, and it reached a brilliant frequency of 435. Mozart and Beethoven were irritated that their pieces were being played faster than they had intended. Reading in bourgeois households was likewise accelerated. Repeated readings of the Bible and the classics shifted to include the consumption of constantly new literary products, above all the novel. Starting in 1814, the rotary press helped increase volume, and Brockhaus, one of our key witnesses, sought to adapt. The publisher's first encyclopedia was brought up to date through supplemental volumes, but in 1830 and 1840, it shifted to offer separate I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, which provided a cross-section of modernity. This cross-section then became its journal, which reported the events of a bustling time, German readers' homes every month. You got sectionals, and then quarterlies, and then weeklies and monthlies. Let us pause with these empirical findings and their 19th century interpretations and ask what the effect of acceleration as a principle of experience was. First, the increasing use of the term acceleration since the turn of the 19th century bears witness to a change in the sensation and the consciousness of time, without the everyday use of language necessarily having the kind of theoretical or systematic stringency. I still think that's an issue today. Although I think thanks to science fiction, we have better metaphors. It would seem that the term served to register an experience that had not existed before. Of course, this is precisely the point of acceleration. It is a moment of surprise that is articulated here. Let me try briefly to explain. The question as to acceleration is part of a more general question of what constitutes historical time. If we may characterize progress as the first genuinely historical category of time, which is despite its historical and theological implications, then acceleration is a specific variety of this progress. Theoretically, there can also be progress that moves uniformly, so that the simple speed of a change or improvement does not present an additional criterion for something that progressively changing. Rise in production, for example, can remain the same in uniform intervals of time. It is only if productivity is increased that it becomes an acceleration of production. Boy, do I know it. As we know, this is a question for economic history that has not yet been adequately researched. To some extent, yeah. The transition from manual to mechanical spinning and weaving is just one symptom of many that could be weighted in a variety of ways. It's only when the rates measured in identical intervals of time increase geometrically rather than arithmetically that can register something like acceleration. Thus, around 1900, Henry Adams considered the entirety of modern history in the terms of the law of acceleration. This model is a useful heuristic determination for the technological, industrial conditions of modern history, but it cannot be applied in an unmediated way to general history. At any rate, it is clear to us that acceleration is more than simple change and more than mere progress. It qualifies the progress of history, a phrase first employed after 1800.
Interesting.
What do you think about that?
Well, the progress of his, again, it's sort of like a way of feeling history moving in a different way than that was also with like the speed of information creating we know it now with like the internet, but even back then with literature and the proliferation of literacy, there was a new way of actually feeling that movement of history in terms of experiencing it and recollecting it and recording it. Whereas for the vast majority of human history, a lot of what the event itself was something that was subject to a mythologization, was subject to a sort of autopoetic time, if you will, that was outside of the confines of a very rationalistic, instrumentalist capacity of recording and recollecting. That recollection was for itself a construction that dealt with a poetics of human history that was told in various mythological belief structures. But now that we have the ability to record and to store history and outside of our minds, right, outside of oral traditions, then as that capacity increases, it's almost as if our capacity for that mythologization is atrophied. Um, and it leads to a lot of different ways of thinking as well, because we're not in what a lot of, traditional societies or indigenous groups, they call a lot of new agers, or they call it like the dream time thing, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in dream time anymore. We're in a very rationalistic and mechanical notion of time. Now, we could say that maybe the internet delivers back to us a form of dream time in a very weird mediated way, but at this time, it seems that history was felt with a very different character than what it had been for our ancestors. And it's something that, because of the way technology progresses, if you look at the history of technology, because it progresses in very incremental ways and people adapt, and people aren't really in the business of thinking about what they're doing in terms of engaging with newer technologies, especially when it comes to knowledge distribution, recollection, and recording. It's like it almost becomes very natural very quickly. And people don't realize that, it is sort of a way of atrophying how we previously engaged with stories of the past and recollection, cultural memory and recollection. And so, and now, of course, a lot of the categorizations and distribution of information is heavily reliant upon various political and economic systems. Even more so, there is this weird feigned ignorance, or not really musing upon what we're doing in the moment as we engage with these things, even when it comes to the mass print media, you know. And so it's like, to really have the ability to pull back and say, yeah, it's like that forms a different subject. Like we were talking about with politics, right? When democracy, all of these things are related, because all of these things are go back to the picture of what humanity really is. And that's the essence of conceptual history, which Koselleck was talking about, right? Like, history is felt within the cultural and political and historical context of the time, right? And that's how
Mm-hmm.
you view history. It's like our picture of the subject, the picture of who we are as human beings, is also fundamentally rearranged with these newer things. Because now that you have cultural memory being stored within oral traditions, I know this is a very basic point, but like, now that, cultural memory is being stored with oral traditions, it's being stored with a mythologization of time in the past. Now that we have a direct record or a cartography of the past through mass media, through the availability of media and print and so on and so forth, that then what happens in the 18th and 19th century, you have great levels of secularization and millenarian political ideologies that serve as a replacement for religious notions of humanity. And so all of these come together. A lot of it is because of technology. And a lot of it is because we have an ability to recollect and to gather past events in what we think is, I mean, of course, there's a lot of ambiguity, as we know with history, with recorded history.
Mm-hmm.
But still, we have something that has the pretense towards a very rationalistic and objective way of viewing the past. And so our sort of capacity to engage in this, what you could call a dream time, is hobbled. And that, of course, creates a completely different picture of the subject, one that is individualistic and rationalistic and secular, and go on all down the line into modernism. You get the point. So it's very interesting from that view. It's like, yes, technology fundamentally does. It's like what Lewis Mumford said. He was correct. Technology has within it kernels of an ideological picture of what being actually is. It's not something that is purely just a neutral res extensia of human capacity. With that extension of human capacity and human memory comes a completely different picture of what the human actually is. And I think that's something we don't really think about a lot, because, like, even with this fucking AI, I shouldn't be so I shouldn't swear, but even with this AI stuff, this whole prediction about the future of AI and Sam Altman and what does Elon Musk say about AI, it's like, all that is nonsense, because a lot of these people aren't really thinking philosophically about what it means to have the proliferation of information that is outside of human. I mean, at the end of the day, there probably is somebody doing something that inputs into the AI what it wants. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, there's a lot of AI programs that do just proliferate automatically a sequence of events or a sequence of information. And yeah, I mean, to think about this has been the philosophic in the Western world anyways. It's been like the philosophy du jour of the past 10 to 15 to 20 years with like speculative realism, with Quentin Meillassoux and people like that, Graham Harman, Timothy Morton, where it's like, what happens when we do have non-human entities proliferating very humanly forms of knowledge and information? What does that world even look like? If we don't have the object observer of that Kantian equation observing the real, what if the real was observed by something that is non-human? Now, I guess, a lot of technophiliacs in Silicon Valley, they're like, well, I don't have to read Quentin Meillassoux. I don't have to read Laurel. I don't have to read Graham Harman. I could just do it. You could, but just by doing it is going into like what Lewis Mumford talks about, authoritarian technology. It's technology that insists upon itself. You just do it for its own sake. You do it because you can do it. Like, in a lot of ways, Lewis Mumford was literally saying the Jeff Goldblum spiel from Jurassic Park, where he's like, you focus so much, and if you could do it, you never stop to ask the question if you should.
I mean, that is fundamentally Crichton's whole view about like the modern sciences is they do become authoritarian political technologies, especially in everything that he writes outside of like Jurassic Park and the Andromeda Strain. Like later in life, before he died, he's fundamentally asking those questions about climate science and regulatory safety industries. He's just like, listen, we're fundamentally operating on a level in which the subject that you're supposed to be studying exists purely for the form of to do it because it gives me power. Yes. And that made him a very hated individual in some political circles.
And before you even knew what you had, you stamped a lunchbox on it and you sold it.
But true, like fundamentally.
No, before Sam Altman even knew what he had, he fucking stuck a logo on it and he sold it in the fucking t-shirt, the Chinese dropship t-shirt and the lunchbox, and he sold it. It's true. It's so true.
It was on Temu before you could, understand.
There's something that Sex Freakman said that was to my point. And you really should contribute a super chat, Sex Freakman. I know I shouldn't be reading these.
He does often.
Yeah, he does. He said, it's not like history has become any more objective. The accessibility just made it easier to believe than oral recollection. But you know what's funny about that is that history is becoming more ambiguous. It's becoming more conceptual. It's becoming more postmodern in the sense of its ambiguity. It's not becoming more objective with digital technology. Strangely enough, that's a weird paradox of the world we live in. It's not becoming more objective. It's becoming less objective. Even though we have a proliferation of digital recollecting. It's, and people, they're like, that can't be true, right? Because I can look at a video and I could see it for myself. But that's actually, the reality is that take one video of an event and take 100 people, there will be 100 different interpretations of that video, even though they've seen it with their lying eyes. It's very strange. People, because again, we are, this is a Jungian point now. We are people that are disconnected from what the vast majority of humanity was connected to, which is that dream time, right? We are mythological machines of unknowing. But yet we have forced ourselves into a medium that proclaims total secular rationalistic objectivity. We forced our view into that. Yeah, the phenomenon is the strongest evidence of hyperstition, in my opinion. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. There are no objections there on that front, to say the least. Yeah. Especially because one of the bigger things, too, is that it's trying to go and force yourself to go somewhere where the only thing you're going to hear is oral tradition.
Right.
And I don't mean this like, go listen to some tribal story, but I mean like, I have a video coming out on this Thursday, but I'll issue a slight preview. Is like, um, because of how I grew up, I did not travel. I didn't see family very often, and so for me, I have no understanding about really where I come from outside of what my parents told me. And since I came back to the States, and especially where I live where I live now, which is closer to family, I go to the family reunion every year, and I've been going for the last like 5 years. And of course, every year it's the same awkward, like, oh, who are you related to? Da 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 da. Oh, I haven't seen you since you were yay tall or whatever, which is fine. I don't care. I turned 30 this month. Who cares? Like, I don't give a shit that much
Yeah.
anymore. But like, one of the things that I always get to appreciate, to a point where I don't mind. I don't really care about admitting this, but it almost moves me to tears. Is when I get to hear stories about where my older family, how they grew up and how they lived. One, because it's an experience of an America that has died, like this pre-revolutionary America that was almost, I was very idyllic. And I can say that it was idyllic, even though I'm sure there was hardships and there wasn't things that were easy to live with or deal with and things like that. But it's idyllic to me because I don't understand a world where you're still relying on the 6 cent stamp to mail something out to your family in California to ask how is business doing at the shipyards. You
Mhm.
don't understand what it was like that you lived in a very kind of ancient way where you did live more by the sun than you did by anything else when it came to
Oh
working the
yeah.
fields. And hoping that you would get a letter from someone who was off in Vietnam. And I got all kinds of stories and letters and things like that. And I find them incredibly moving because it's very hard, I think, for anyone who lives like you and I do online to conceptualize what that world even looks like. And then for those who are in like high church traditions like Anglicanism, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, like it's very hard to consider what you're stepping into sacramentally, which is technically you are participating in the heavenly liturgy, which has been described by the prophets that has now come to the fullness and time in Christ, and that you're supposed to be living in a place where time technically doesn't exist. And for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, you are participating in something that is outside the human conceptualization of time itself.
Right.
And that's something I think very hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. Because I mean, especially if you like serve in those services on the altar, or like in my instance, the choir, like you look at this as a strenuous, like hour and a half, potentially 2 hour long, musically oriented marathon, which can be hard on the throat and the voice and whatnot. But like, even here, like, it's trying to take you out of something where everything is done deliberately and it has its place. And you and I live in a world where like place doesn't really matter as so much because technically mobility exists by
Right.
speed and speed alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it's very I think that's something that our generation and Zoomers haven't ever paused to maybe question, in part because we were born strapped to a rocket and rockets explode, and we don't consider where that rocket might, when it reaches its destination.
Yeah. Well, we can't because it's the normative way of doing things.
Exactly.
And so it's not like not everybody can live in like, you know, not everybody can go to like a Willendorf school and have their parents restrict their internet time, and you're seen as like a freak if you do that,
No,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like it's very odd. Like I kind of find it. I mean, even I do this because like I uninstall. I uninstall my social media for my phone over the weekends. Like it just I try and do it as sort of this weird. I don't want to say weird, but I as an aesthetic kind of practice. I do that deliberately because I don't want to be on my phone all the time. If I'm tweeting on the weekends, it's because I'm in front of my computer, my desktop, and I'm functionally doing stuff I probably shouldn't be. But like, or I'm working on something and I just happen to new tab x.com/messages. But like, that's just part of life, and that's sort of the way in which we live. And that's like, okay, fine. Like, right. But and then you miss everything, or like you take a day off, or you turn your phone off or whatever, and then you're like, oh yeah, like the world really did change. Like something really happened. You're like, what's going on? All of a sudden there's this new drama, or you miss like the meme / like discursive point for the week or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You miss out on things, but then you realize, oh, I missed out on it. Like there's the old FOMO thing.
Yeah.
And like FOMO dominates our time and space, I think, more than at any other point in time. because it's like, well, if you're not there, then what are you doing? Like, this is the world. We've transcended like geographic barriers for the exact purpose of, oh, well, actually, the most important thing for us right now is to be in this place of space that isn't physical, but it is the only place that can like dictate where the future might be. And if you're lucky, you can participate in this quote unquote future.
Oh, man. I remember one week I took a break from tweeting for like a week or whatever. This was like a few years ago. And it was the same weekend that the Yevgeny Prigozhin failed coup attempt happened.
I was at an OGC conference when that happened, and we were laughing because it's like, wow, it seems every time we go to one of these conferences, something happens in Russia and Ukraine.
And I'm like, at the end on Monday when I went back, I unlocked my account. I'm like, I'm actually glad I didn't have a take on this because nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. And RIP to a legend. Like, then he died in that plane crash, allegedly. And it's just like, yeah, I'm glad. Allegedly, it was a freak accident. Allegedly. But so I'm like, I'm kind of glad I didn't have a take on that week. Because it's like, if you were to have a take on like Saturday, by Monday, your take was probably going to be irrelevant. So,
but I mean, that happens with almost every major discursive
it's true
event that takes place, because like people will give their initial takes, and you see this a lot nowadays with like the quote unquote like plan trusting or whatever. It's like, some the quote unquote negative Nancy's or the Planikins or whatever will have their take, which I think oftentimes can be justified.
The Panikins, you mean the Panikins?
Yeah. I and even then that label I find to be like, I don't like this dichotomy.
It's so childish and stupid.
It's a very dumb dichotomy, and I don't like it in any way, shape, or form, because it's like I want when good things come out of this administration, I want more of it, and I will encourage it. When bad, dumb, retarded things happen, I will be a negative Nancy, as one should be. I don't like this dumb, like I must be on team A or team B. Like I hate to break it to you, but you're literally doing the dumb mold bug. Like, isn't it weird that you only believe that there are two choices when presented with two options? Like, isn't that a neat magic trick? And it's like, it is a neat magic trick. Isn't it weird that almost everyone and my mother seems to do that on the timeline? Like, that's a lot of fun.
It's very much like advanced three-dimensional key jangling.
Like, what trickonology is this? Like, oh my god.
Oh man, trickology of political discourse. It's very funny how
that'd be a fun Substack title.
Oh yeah. No, but it manifests differently on the political right than it does the left, because the left has a different form of key jangling, but it's very institutionalized. Whereas on the right, it's very much like influencer based and like networks of affinity and things of that nature. It's very funny how like that works that way. I guess in the absence of real institutional power, the influencer network becomes the thing, right? The message.
Well, because you can make money that way.
And you can make money that way, exactly. So,
like, that's really what this discussion that fundamentally boils down to. Like, you can make money off of this. And,
well, it's
people want to make money off of it. People want to have their name. Like, it appeals to the most basic human instinct of vanity, where it's like, oh, hundreds of thousands of people could listen to my take or hear what I have to say. Like, and that's a crazy thing to consider.
Oh yeah,
like even the show, or even our followers on Twitter, like like we're both in the high double digits for numbers, and it's just like, that's kind of wild to consider that little old us, who by all extensions in human history would have no right to have the audience that they do.
Well, yeah, I guess.
I mean, maybe, who knows? In the past,
maybe.
I would hope that I would be seen as something brilliant. Or have a world, an audience that edifies the world or something like that. But it is kind of strange that even on a small scale level, like the fact that a random guy in Canada and a random third culture kid from Texas can do these kinds of things and be mentioned in books or write books and do things like that is still something that we can kind of just take for granted, and never consider the fact that like this exists fundamentally in a world where because of how things move, i.e. acceleration, you're now part of the claim to social mobility that a nobody can be somebody.
And so, like, once in a while, people make it out of the ghetto. Like, for example, Kat was in the New York Times today, a few days ago.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's sort of like, for as much as it's like, I don't want to say like he's right, because obviously he's not. Like, I think God wins in the end, so that's why he's wrong. But it's like that insane, delusional, narcissistic thing that Nathan Kaufman said, where he's like, well, if expert opinion is wrong and they lie to you, it's actually still good. It doesn't really matter if they lie to you because they're good in the end anyways. I think, like,
I mean, all of that does is just reveal Nathan's God.
No, exactly. But I think in a sense he's correct if you have the ability to wield the power that makes all of your conclusions the enforced consensus reality. I think that's like Nathan Kaufman, like a lot of these,
he worships power.
But they don't know that they worship power.
No, because it's cloaked.
They think
they're
worshiping an objective scientific thing. They think they're worshiping, but I think like the fact that they're ignorant of the reality of power in terms of power knowledge, they would say like, well, that Foucault stuff, that's like postmodern nonsense. Like James Lindsay would say that, like he'd be like, well, that's just Marxism, or Marxo postmodern. What is Jordan Peterson's term? Postmodern Marxism, whatever the hell. Like, yeah, like,
or postmodern
neo-Marxism,
Gnostic neo-Marxism, or something like that.
Something like that,
yeah.
And so, but at the end of the day, when you do examine that statement, in a weird way, he's kind of correct in the sense that, not that he's objectively correct on a metaphysical level, because he's not.
No.
Experts that lie to you are the worst forms of traitors. They have used their position in the current iteration of society and civilization. They've used their position for evil, and they are evil. They're just as evil as a corrupt priest or religious official. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But in terms of the framework of the system as it exists, it's kind of a very hard thing to argue against. Not the way that Nathan Kaufman says, where, well, if the experts lie to you, it's because they're so objectively good at what they do, and they're the smartest do-gooder people. And if you're smartest, the more smarter you are, the more gooder that you are. That's his framework. But when it comes to like the nature of power knowledge as such, it's hard to argue against, because it's like, if you do have this quote unquote consensus opinion as an expert, you are granted the veil of legitimacy by the system itself. Then it's like, yeah, you can lie and get away with it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it goes to the nature of ambiguity of knowledge itself and information and the acceleration of opinion. Because even though I noticed, like I said this during Clownvid, right? Like a lot of people said this, even Agamben said this, about how expert opinion experienced a huge legitimacy crisis. But, 3 years away from it, has there ever been any consequences for this legitimacy crisis in terms of public belief?
Oh, of course
not. No, of course not. The vast majority of people will believe what someone that's deemed an expert says. I mean, maybe a lot of people will not believe it. There will be a demographic that's quite large that won't believe any expert opinion, and that's also another trap.
Well, I think that becomes the horrifying. Like, this is the I didn't get a chance to discuss this yesterday, but like, this is why I think, like, we talk about like man-made, like our visions of the apocalypse, like post-apocalyptic, like apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic writing is a very Western Anglo-French tradition and very much an English Protestant tradition, wherein like we look at the world that was, and then we conceptualize like what has brought about the end. A lot of it was either by plague or by metaphysical, Christological, like the Book of Apocalypse actually gets to begin after some key trigger. And then all of a sudden, like with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, that changes to where now it's like Napoleonic conflict. Again, this is proving Koselleck's point here. Like now all of a sudden it is very much due to war and technological innovation. And those technological innovations, in turn, become the very tools in which bring about mankind's destruction. Mm-hmm. And those things are the things that we have to consider in all of our discussions about the end, and this is where you get like the Udakowskis and the Nick Bostroms and the Thomas Moynahans of the world, because now they
Right.
also have to reckon with mankind is metaphysically and conceptually aware of its own self-destruction, and what does that mean? And it's brought upon, as Virilio discusses in his book, The Original Accident, by speed and technological change. And those things
Right.
affecting the social consciousness so much that we can in turn create the accident, and our attempt to fix the problem actually only doubles down and makes it worse. And I think that, again, one, this reintroduces catastrophism from the sort of progressive, liberal mindset for like study and eventual progress, but also that it is something very important to consider, that like now what we're dealing with is a world in which we have to grapple with, well, things can change so rapidly. Like, how does anyone or anything stay remotely sane or possible?
Right.
And this is
Yeah.
where I think you get Udakowski kind of breaking down, even though to some extent I think his worries about AI safetyism, there are probably some legitimate arguments to be had there.
Yeah, a lot
But
of it's very Reddit though. Yeah.
no, some of it is. A lot of it's pure Reddit. But the problem is like, can we throw the theoretical baby out with the bathwater? This is why I think if there is ever going to be another plague or sort of COVID situation, it will be 10 times worse and more people will die. Not because necessarily the disease is deadlier, but because the
Right.
greatest damage that has been done by by the last plague, fundamentally was we destroyed the last vestiges of political
Well,
legitimacy.
I spoke too soon. I think the consequences will be seen in the next decade
Oh
in
yeah,
terms of the crisis of legitimacy. I think in the immediacy, there was no price to be paid whatsoever by this huge crisis of legitimacy with expertism. But the next time a major event like another war or another plague comes about, then the sort of like quiet skepticism that's been brewing among a lot of like normal people, like you were saying, like that will be borne out, and that will be the real test of faith in the quote unquote expert classes, the PMCs or whatever you want to call it. But
mm-hmm.
when I think like you were saying about Big Yud, or like people that talk about being aware of the end or being aware of their own ability, a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, they're not like unironically, you have like a lot of these Instagram reel people or on TikTok that use AI videos to create like horror films or
Mm-hmm.
like Italian brain rot. Like, Dugan was obsessed with Italian brain rot. Like, a lot of it's very creepy and disturbing. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people don't have a huge imagination when it comes to AI and similar technologies, because the main focus is just to make life more comfortable, the way that the previous industrial revolutions were all about making life
Yeah,
physically more
it becomes
comfortable.
a psychosoma, just like,
Exactly, like producing more widgets or whatever. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
producing more, but producing more ways that the monkey can press the happy button.
exactly, like gooning and brain rot. But what if you can take these technologies, which some people do, like there's some people that talk about this and write about this, I'm sure, to produce new experiences in general, things that are beyond imagination itself, to produce religious experiences in people that are, there will be AI cults in the future, as there already is now.
Yeah,
There will be a sort of a new experiential nature to life. Those are the things I think from an artist point of view is more exciting than like, what if the AI could like, make me live for 100 years, but like I'm living in the fucking goon pod. Like it's, like that's like, there's a poverty of imagination. That's why people like Nick Land to me are way more interesting than all these other Silicon Valley people, because at least he's thinking about things that are exciting and terrifying and theoretical. Maybe not so much in recent years, but there's something there. Whereas people that just view AI as like, well, can we cure world? Not to say I'm bashing curing world hunger, although I don't know, I kind of question
I
that.
don't
But
think
like,
you can, but
you
yeah,
can, you can, you can. But like people that say, what if like the AI could like make everybody have the same, like more or less global communism where we all live the same and we all live in the goon pod and we all have like our nutrient mush that tastes like a 5 Michelin star restaurant every night, and we can like sleep with any prawn star we want to, and it's like
the Owen Cyclops, Auto Masturbator 9000.
Exactly.
Just let people enjoy things, man.
Yeah, like let people enjoy things, right? But then like that's like not.
It is weird that it is bad that has become the default. Like I hate the Aristotelian natural state of like enslaved man.
Exactly.
Just kind of emerged. Like, well, when man has a tool that can create anything that he wants, like what does he do? He comes.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Like, what if the car drives itself, but it also jerks me off while I'm driving?
That's literally a Robin Williams bit.
Yeah.
The Ford Fellatio, it gets you off while it gets you there.
There was this one comedian I remember in the Just for Laughs festival that said like, if I'm going to pay this was like back in the late 90s. If I'm going to pay, so I guess it's like would be equivalent of how much money today. It's like if I'm paying $500 for a printing, if I'm paying $500 for a printer, like it better jerk me off or do something like that, like. It better like give you a good time.
The bit that also came from even like the Wolf on Wall Street. Like if I'm paying that much for a sandwich, that sandwich better cure cancer.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
we have our expectations over what will be. But I mean that just goes to show also too, like maybe to some extent that this kind of validates Blish, where it's just like, well, we have all these like basic science fiction tools, and it's like, what do I do with them? Well, you goon. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, what else can you do? I mean, you could maybe like, it's very weird. It's like technology. I mean, okay, yeah. Besides curing diseases or whatever, can it goon me more effectively? Can it kill people in the battlefield more? Can I edge more effectively? Can it kill people in the battlefield more effectively? Can it deliver product more effectively? It's like, that's it, like economic efficiency, sexual efficiency, and the efficiency of death. That's pretty much it, like it's, nobody can imagine anything besides that. It's very terrifying. It's like people that are like, have you ever seen
the future is yours, but that future works within like Ayala's framework of like human value.
Exactly. Like, have you ever heard like very rich and famous people in Silicon Valley or people adjacent to the science community? Have you ever heard them talk? You ever read Jeffrey Epstein's diary where he's like,
I don't use broad anymore, it's too derogatory.
Yeah, or like he said, like it's like basically the mind of like a stoned 15-year-old that has like that's like been on the internet for a little bit. It's like it's like Jeffrey Epstein was like a Joe Rogan American. Like what if I had like external skin, exoskin, or like what if I had this tweet where it's like it's literally the Will Smith kid when he was tweeting. Realize, real lies. It was like literally like that midwit level of discussion. He's like, what if some of the stuff was insane. Like it was, these are the most powerful people in the world. Like, if you ever heard Elon Musk talk about
he's because he's a fucking Redditor.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is the world's richest man, like.
Yeah, that's gonna go to Mars.
We're arguably one of the world's most powerful people to ever live
in human history.
It's like, I am Kekius Maximus, and I'm like, oh no.
Or it's like Brian Johnson, like, what if I can live forever? Like, how are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. Like, I just take the blood from my teenage son, who's also a Giga Chad.
And I'm gonna put cortisone in my penis and just monitor my erections, and life will be good. And
he has a girlfriend now, so
I know, and he's 18 years younger than him. He's 48, she's 30.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. You did well. Good for you.
She's 30 years old. She's 30 years old, you sick fuck.
But I mean, like, yeah, basically, like, he's biologically 16, you sick bastard. It's just, it's fun to watch. It's fun to.
She's the abuser in that relationship because he's biologically an 18-year-old. That's like.
You were grooming him, you sick fuck. Yeah, it'd be fun. So you're telling me, so what you're saying is, he's 48, but biologically he's 16? Yeah, it's Brian Johnson. He's a vampire.
That's the Shagget defense right there.
There you go. But yeah, so I think that how long we've been going on? About 2.5 hours. I think we could probably stop there for the super chats. I really do recommend that. I mean, we should come back to this in the future, not this essay, but this book. It's been really good. I really recommend more people read Koselleck. That's just Love, Death, and Robots abstracted in their pure form. Yeah, it's definitely true.
Shinji Masato situation. Oh man.
Get in the plasma transplant.
Look at Haslo statutory because the guy is just retarded.
Maybe.
Oh,
that's funny. All right. Well, let's go. Let's go head to Let's head over to the super chats. As always, the Digital Archipelago is brought to you by viewers like you. Without your weekly contributions, as well as your monthly contributions to subscribestar.com/the Prudentialist, as well as patreon.com/giantartproductions, this show wouldn't be allowed to exist without the viewership and the paid subscriptions and super chats from the audience like you. Gio just recently put out a new video on his channel, as well as on Substack, discussing art and a variety of other things. Gio, would you like to tell us about it?
Oh yeah, I it's one of my Monday art videos, painting discourse. I talk about the purpose of nationhood in the work of art, and also I discussed this recent piece that was in Palladium magazine. Although they had me blocked on Twitter, discussing about Canada's managerial crisis and how that relates to certainly what I do with plein air painting. It's a very good video. And hopefully you enjoy. And I got to start doing like exclusive Patreon art videos as well, not just content minded. So hopefully that incentivizes some of you to subscribe to the Patreon or the Substack. And there you go. Does Brian Johnson do interviews?
I would love to interview him. I think he's been on a podcast once or twice.
I think we could reach out to him.
I would love to discuss his I would love to discuss it. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will have a video out this Thursday discussing sort of familial relations, oral traditions, and a sense of place. So that will be out this Thursday. And then as always, I've been going on an ongoing series of streams with my friend Mr. D and Mr. Christopher Sandbatch discussing Twin Peaks: The Return. I've shared them on the community tab before. You can go find them on Mr. D's channel. So by all means, it's been a lot of fun covering Twin Peaks with him. It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
I didn't hear about oral traditions. We just talked about it today.
Yeah, we just did. Yeah. This Thursday, I am recording with our friend Granite Mountain. He does the movie review podcast.
Oh yeah. Granite Mountain movie reviews.
Yeah, Granite Mountain movie reviews. I got invited on because of the Digital Archipelago to discuss Michael Mann's Heat. So nice. I'm very excited. I'm recording that this Thursday.
I recently recorded with Bird and we talked about Phantom Thread.
Oh yeah, I saw that. And then this Friday, Gio, do you want to give a special announcement?
Okay, this Friday, it's very special. We are going to be a part of the Timeline Earth 12 Days of Christmas special. It's going to be the Digital Archipelago Timeline Earth crossover. Finally, it's happening. It's amazing. So, it's gonna be great. We're gonna talk about the war on Christmas.
We'll probably put a clip on or something.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we'll get the video up on the channels. Yeah, we haven't decided. We don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, the Timeline Earth Digital Archipelago crossovers this Friday. We're recording with Berto and the TLE guys over all sorts of stuff. It'll be a lot of fun.
I have kind of a very offensive question for Berto.
Well, you're both Italian. It'll be fine. So that's going on there.
I don't know. Like, would he be offended if I ask him that he kind of sounds like Jim Norton a little bit?
You can have fun with that one. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Have fun with that one behind the screen, or behind studio walls. Other than that, I've submitted my article I will be in Frontier Magazine again, and very honored. This will be the second time I've been published with them. It'll be a lot of fun. I never get to write what I want to write about when I'm over there, but Peter, their editor, has been very kind to me. I get to talk about the working title so far, because they always change the titles on me. The working title right now is called The Strange Death of Late Night. So I'll be talking about late night television in the latest upcoming edition of Frontier Magazine from the Blaze. So I'm very excited about that. And then I've got some more essays down in the pipeline. I have a bunch of audio bits I need to transcribe into videos. But I have a lot of stuff planned for the content pipeline, at least, because I have the King of the Hill review that I need to transcribe or at least edit out, because I ranted on my phone while I was driving one time. And then I have an Ace Combat review I need to finish up for one of our lovely paid patrons. And then starting next week, Gio and I will be starting our paid review of Steins Gate.
Yes.
So we've got a lot coming down, and it's going to be great. So
on my channel, first installment of our review of Steins Gate. It's finally happening.
It's finally happening.
The Timeline Earth episode's finally happening. This is like Christmas come early. Timeline Earth crossover, and finally the Steins Gate review is happening. It's going to be crazy. And I hope Paz comes along too with Timeline Earth. I hope Paz is going to be there.
I hope so. It'll be a fun time.
Yeah, my good friend Paz. I know Paz in real life, eh?
Oh, really?
Yeah, we met.
It's a small world.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I think Dimes and I are trying to see if we could ever do You Even Read live. Also, speaking of Do You Even Read, our next episode will be on the 22nd of December on a Monday. And he and I will be covering The Unprotected Class, How Anti-White Racism is Tearing America Apart by Jeremy Carl. So that'll be a good episode.
Nice.
So with that being said, we will go over to the super chats, and we will get started with the YouTube ones, because I can put this up on screen. Wingman, he says Entropy super chat machine broke. Oh God, I hope not. But if it is, please let me know. I can see super chats right now on Entropy. If it's not working, someone let me know, and I'll get that fixed ASAP. But carrying on. Thank you though for resubscribing. You get to see all the gaming streams and all the stuff I put out earlier. Did my super chat not go through? Pac-Man. No, yours went through, Pac-Man Respector. So no, it's working. But he sends a very generous super chat.
How much?
For $50.
$50.
Incredibly generous, Wingman. He says, please do you even read on whitewashing America, material culture, and race in the antebellum imagination by Dr. Bridget Hannigan. If you can find it in the library system for free, I guarantee you I can get a PDF for it. I am not opposed. I will go look up this book and send it to Dimes, and I guess we can put that in the pipeline. So yeah,
right.
There'll be an episode for Dimes and I. No problem. I will always say yes to a paid review. Brought to you by absolutely.
I think I've heard of this book before.
I have not, so I'm looking forward to reading it. Not my Grim.
No,
from
I'm
Red
not
Hood.
Grim.
No, I'm not
Red
from Grim
Hood.
Red Hood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sedation until inevitable collapse. That certainly seems to be a lot of the jangly keys stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Randall Shirker 8133 says, just remember, Gio, we haven't forgotten the Northwest Passage. You're going to be in American territory as part of New Manifest Destiny. Canada should be Canada. Let the Canadians be. I like Canada. Let it be.
There was one of these like Maple Maga Sloppulist accounts. I remember Fortisax was bombing on this guy. He had like Charlie Kirk and MLK and Donald Trump on Canadian Money, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, please.
I agree with was it George Grant who wrote about the Americanization of Canada?
Yeah,
I agree with George Grant entirely. Like, it's not a good thing. Canada is like a very unique place.
The purest distillation of like the Rebel News, like Maple Maga enjoyer. Like, that's like putting Charlie Kirk and I think Hegseth was also on a Canadian dollar bill in that edit. It was like this poorly done edit. It was like, I can't believe it. I saw that and I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing, man?
Our friend Vitalis says Freakman Bucks for $1.99. I like the Specs Freakman Bucks. He always asks good questions and has fun commentary. He is such a regular for this show and for Do You Even Read. He's one of my favorites in chat. It's a name that just sticks out to me, Sex Freakman.
Every
Carrying
time I
on.
think of Do You Even Read, I think of the AA series, Who Would You Do? For
I'm
some reason.
so you're truly Italian, Gio. That's all I'm gonna say.
Who Would
No,
You
I'm not.
Do?
Grim from Red Hood. He says they want the most hellish conception of heaven. Yeah,
Oh, exactly.
I would
Yeah.
agree. I wholeheartedly. Yeah, it reminds me of like the bus stop from hell. With regards to some of C.S.
There,
Lewis's writings.
there were two guys. There was a guy in Burden's chat arguing with Thomas, about like physical corporeal manifestation of your body in heaven. What do the Orthodox believe what happens to you in heaven?
Well, I mean, the issue is about the physical resurrection at the end. I mean, this is why I think the Orthodox are the only ones that are prominently anti-cremation.
Oh yeah, that's why.
But I mean, like it's come the judgment. You know, it's we will be resurrected not just spiritually but physically. So things to consider.
And certain Protestants don't believe in physical resurrection.
I don't know. And it's not my
look
place. It's not. It would be a question to ask various sects.
I'm embarrassed. I don't even know the Catholic Church view on this.
Should go to mass sometime, Gio. I don't know.
I know.
Just a thought. Wingman says for $5. I think I've heard of this book before. She's gonna love to hear that. I'm terrified. I should go look up this book.
Oh,
I'm literally looking up.
Teaches that Catholic Church teaches that the resurrection of the dead is a physical event where all human beings will rise before their bodies at the end of time. Okay, so similar to the Orthodox.
Yeah, material. What is this book called? Material Culture and Race. I've never heard of this book before. Whitewashing American Material Culture and Race. How material goods shaped the antebellum notions of race, class, gender, and purity, the Revolutionary War, white colored goods. Oh my, this is going to be one of those like libtard books that we cover. Okay, that'll be fun. We like doing those, so don't worry. We punish the audience where it's just like, you know, it's just gonna be the way that it goes. Vulpes Persona says, "Be the gringo of the hill you want to see in the world, fellow Gillette shavers."
Oh boy, that's pure 2010s right there.
It sure is.
Oh.
That is probably one of the most peak, if there is such a thing as peak woke. That the Gillette commercial is the epitome of that.
Yeah,
wholeheartedly. So yeah.
Oh man.
Did y'all hear about the Canadian Supreme Court striking down minimum sentences for cheese pizza? They really are just mask off at that point. I did not hear about this, but that's really tragic.
I don't know. Did it pass?
I
have to see, but
I'd have to look it up. But we can.
I mean,
it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, in the abstract, I think there are arguments back and forth. Not just when it relates to this crime, I think there should obviously be mandatory minimums. But I think when it comes to minimum sentencing for crime in general, a lot of people do debate back and forth if mandatory minimums are an effective deterrent or if they're an effective legal option. But I would see, like, in cases such as petty crimes, crimes of drug possession, or crimes of theft or something like that. No, maybe not theft, but like crimes under a certain threshold, I think that certain mandatory minimums can be quite draconian. But when it comes to
crimes, 1 year mandatory minimum they struck down.
That's insane.
That's insane. 1 year mandatory minimum.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Crimes like cheese pizza obviously should carry a huge mandatory minimum sentence. And I think the fact that they're striking it down just smacks of politics. It's insane. But I mean, I guess I am more libtarded when it comes to a lot of different forms of crime. Like, I think that reform should be a good thing. But when it comes to this particular crime, I'm obviously on the hard line. I think that it's a travesty of justice. It's insane. And it's I don't even think like your garden variety like Canadian libtard would even want this. Like, who wants this? Besides hardcore activists, by the way. That's the only people who want this. It's the average like libtard that voted for Mark Carney. I don't think they want this. I can understand questioning mandatory minimums when it comes to lesser, less severe crimes. I think that it can be like, you can be tough on crime to an extent, but when it comes to like the proliferation of criminalization, when you should just work on people that are, like a lot of people in the present system that shouldn't be there, that, I believe in a form of paternalism. I think, put it that way. I've said this on the show before. But when it comes to this, like, it's just I don't know what to say. It's soul destroying.
Yeah,
So,
I a 1 year mandate, the only case I could even think of where that would be remotely acceptable might be with some kind of like difference between. I just can't imagine the logic behind it in any way, shape, or form that it's good.
no.
I'm trying to think of like, well, what's the most liberal answer I could potentially give, and I don't have one. So it's like, okay.
It disproportionately affects certain people that are of the.
Oh, then we're just doing
coalition.
the usual.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so
Yeah.
be it. Tragic in its own right in that regard then. But I guess we'll carry on with the super chats then and just carry on.
Yeah.
Was that all of the super chats that we hear? No, that's all the YouTube super chats. Okay, so on to Entropy. So Pac-Man Respecter says, fumbled the blonde trad powerlifter GF.
No!
Oh well, back to listening to my favorite reactionary streamers while emulating PS2 games.
How did you fumble that, Pac-Man Respecter? How?
Please expand.
Yeah.
Oh
man.
Also, Prude, can you invite your other heavy Italian friend on stream with Gio sometime? Like setting up 2 mirrors facing each other to see what gets reflected. I don't have a different heavy Italian friend. Unless you're talking about my other Canadian co-host friend, Dimes. If that's the case, we've had that happen plenty of times.
I don't think Dimes is Italian.
Dimes is not Italian. Dimes is Anglo.
She went off birth control and found out I had every season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures on Blu-ray, among other problems.
She found out you were an anime guy? I'm sorry, man. That sucks.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Yikes. Is there a skinny flavor of Italian friend? Gio Scotti, but she got fat apparently. No idea.
I like current Gio Scott. I mean, how old is she now?
I have no idea. I don't want to. I'm terrified to look up that question.
I'm terrified. I'm not going to say anything then. But people bombing on her for gaining some weight, like, come on, man. So. Like, it's stupid.
She is 18. Jesus Christ.
No. Yeah, I'm not gonna do.
Oh my lord!
All these guys complaining about her gaining weight is stupid.
Okay. I'm good. I'm good for the sake of stream stuff. I'm good. I think I'm fine to mention anything else. A gentleman by the name of Screama Pervini. Good lord, with a AI gender swapped image of AA.
That's truly, such a great
truly man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Hear ye. Sir Hassler recommendeth Essays in Sociology by Max Weber. I think 48 Laws of the Game, Pimpology. Ken and Karen Hunter. And Genesis and Structure of Society by Giovanni Gentile. I have I have both the Weber and Giovanni Gentile. I have not read them, but they're in my library of things I need to read. The problem with like a good like reading list for politics and theory is that like you read something and then you realize that you need to reread something that you read 3 years ago, and your canon like it stacks. The need to read list continuously stacks, and I owe so many reviews because of it. Screama Pervini again says, also Gio told me to pay up, so I recommend the song that Woman is the Inwa of the World by Mr. John Lennon himself. There's some deep and subtle theory for those fellow girl bosses. I'm more of a fan of the Caius Custodi's cover of that song. Woman is the Inwa of the Outlander. But anyways, thank you for the $3. Charlie Mackey for a very generous and very often $25 says, good evening. I hope that you are both well. Well, I'm very well.
$25.
Incredibly generous.
Oh, Pac-Man Respecter said that well, she went off saying it was poison, birth control, but I think her test level shot up higher than mine. Oh, boy.
That's the sign of a true autistic woman.
Oh, man.
But okay, Wingman, I will definitely add that to the list of books. I'll make sure that Dimes and I get a copy of it via PDF, and we'll go from there. Like I said earlier, I will have a video out this Thursday. Again, I think the best way to support the show as well as our work is via Subscribestar and Patreon. Those links are down below in the description. Honestly, those are the things that keep this going. I'm probably going to spend some time during the Christmas holidays to write a lot more and to keep publishing, because I want to take February off. So, and I say that because I get married in less than 3
Yeah, you
months.
kind of
So
have to take February off.
I kind of have to take February off, as I was told by, you're not the only person, Gio, like, you should take February off. So I will be trying to get as much content out as humanly possible. As always, I will have my Christmas address out on Christmas Day. I'll probably either pre-record it Christmas Eve, or after church, I'll come over and record it and publish it. I always enjoy doing this. I think this will be like year 4 of doing my usual Christmas address. So that'll be out as well. And then Dimes and I'll have Do You Even Read out on the 22nd. Gio and I will probably do some kind of live stream. I'll either host one, and then he'll host one for DA. It's both. The 23rd of December is both of our birthdays. So I get to turn into a 30-year-old boomer, and Gio gets to turn 33. It'll be a fun time where we both get to be the 30-year-old boomer meme together. I think I might edit my profile picture to reflect that, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
We'll see what happens in February. I'll probably compensate by doing like a core report live stream or something like that.
There you go. Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're not planning too much, just because of work and everything else. Like the honeymoon will probably come later in the year, so who knows? But yeah, I don't know what the other chatter meant about my other Italian co-host. I'll have to go find out who that was later. But anyways, we will be live next week.
Yeah.
It'll be a great time. We'll start
Steins Gate next week.
Steins Gate is next week.
Oh,
that's
man.
true. It's coming. It'll be great. The Senile Archipelago. You had a podcast one time. I remember that wop. That bastard sent so much money over e-girls. Where is he these days? Is he the Brian Johnson Goon Pod, sir? I knew it.
I had a co-host. Yes. I remember. Was he the Jewish man? No, the other one. Like, I had a few of them.
I had a few of them in my time. He was a good friend. God.
Oh, I miss 30, Tree Surgeon. I miss 30.
Okay, I have a friend of mine who's turning 50 this month.
Oh,
and
nice.
He on my 29th birthday, he and I had lunch. And he walked into the diner, he shook my hand, and he says, "You have less than 1 year left. Your youth is over." And I'm like, "You turned 50. You shut the fuck up." And so I got revenge on him, because like he's a friend of mine, and I've been to his house. His son is my I'm the kid's godfather, and so I said, I want to get back at you. And so what did I do as my petty form of revenge? I signed him up for AARP, and he now has an AARP membership card that he got in the mail. And his wife sent me a text, and he says, "You have no idea how pissed he is." And I'm like, "Good. Never say I'm a man who's not a man of his word." So
that's no. When you hit 30, though, like it is. When I turned 30, it wasn't. It kind of was. It's not as dramatic as people make it out to be, but it is a time where you figure, like, a few months into it, you realize, like, oh man, I'm not in my 20s anymore. That is a very, like, the jump off between like 20 and 30 is a very, like, your 20s and being in your 30s is dramatic, but I think it's different nowadays because it's sort of like you don't feel like, oh, I'm getting old. I mean, yeah, you do. You're not like with it as much, but it is sort of like, I think because of a lot of different economic, cultural, political forces, 30 really is kind of like the new 20, where you realize, like, oh yeah, now I'm like an adult now. Like now I can view life through a different lens. So it's not as dramatic as people make it out to be to turn 30, but it definitely is significant. And I would say, like, maybe it's just my experience in a positive way, in the sense of, like, it is a foundational thing.
It worked for Gio. Oz.
Yeah, it did work for me. Exactly.
It did work for Gio, so hold on hope. If you're going to give up being a wizard, there you go.
Well, because a lot of different, like, I went independent, like I left Lev, and I started seeing this woman, and like, so yeah, 30 definitely did turn out good. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. And I just think that 30, you're still sufficiently young enough where you have like tons of time, but don't waste it. Like I
I'm
think
still
30 is
young.
where you.
I'm still young.
I'm still young. 30 is still young. No,
Yeah,
but
they all want to hag the adrenochrome. So true.
Yeah.
But last but not least, there was one last super chat. Oswald Art, he says, "Hello, gents. I hope you're all well. This Thanksgiving was great for me. My niece also got christened on Saturday. Well, that's lovely. I am working on a project where I draw an angel for each day of Advent. You can check it out on my Substack. Well, you can find Oz the Art Pilgrim on Twitter, and I'm sure his links to Substack are there. I have reposted a lot of the fan art that he's done for DA and myself over the last couple of years of the show. So be sure to go check his work out. He has been a loyal supporter for both Gio and I for quite some time. So, yeah, let's call it a night, Gio.
All right, yeah, like as we always say, God bless, goodbye, too sweet. And next week, Steingate. So there you go.
We'll see you then, gents.